Marvel, it starts when it links with a great clock of the Super God Academy. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 751, Jezzailin and Du Qiangwei's daughter. When a woman chooses a husband, she may not care so much. As long as they are in love with each other, there is basically no problem. But parents have a lot to consider. They will consider whether their children's partners have good character, family background, and whether the other party has financial conditions. As super soldiers, they naturally don't care about financial conditions. After all, everyone is a maneuvering existence in the universe. Considering material conditions is too superficial. There is no need to talk about family background. Li Qingyun's child is the commander-in-chief who once taught them. His status is much higher than that of the couple. But Du Qiangwei has to worry about character. Li Qingyun married more than one wife. First, he met Qilin on Earth, and then he got together with Angel Yan. The most important thing is that it seems that Li Qingyun also has some special feelings for Xianji Wang Hexi. Moreover, before this, Li Qingyun had two women in another world. Regardless of whether Hexi really got together with Li Qingyun later, Li Qingyun has 4 women. This kind of thing was common in the feudal era, and it seemed acceptable for people like them who have eternal life to have more companions. But they didn't want this to happen to their daughter. Keisha left quickly, but Du Qiangwei was thinking about what Keisha said and her daughter, and her heart was in turmoil. Mom, just when Du Qiangwei was hesitating, the door of the hall opened, and a young and beautiful girl was walking out of the door. This was Du Qiangwei and Jezzailin's daughter, Jie Yanran, who looked about 70% similar to Du Qiangwei, but her personality was not as hot as Du Qiangwei's at the beginning. The way she wore a long skirt was really different from the hot outfit when Du Qiangwei appeared at the beginning. It can only be said that the daughter inherited Jezzailin's genes. The child of a liberal arts student has a bit of literary and artistic atmosphere. In addition, the current Super God universe is not like it was before. It is in a period of intense contradictions and constant contradictions between the main god civilizations. Although there are 3 major forces in the current Super God universe, the angels, demons, and the earth are in a relatively balanced state. After the battle with the god of death Karlin the Void, the friendship of the 3 major forces in fighting against the enemy together is still there, so the entire Super God universe is very harmonious. Just look at the marriage status between the 3 major forces and the 4 civilizations now. The main god of the earth, Jezzailin, and the main god of the devil, Du Qiangwei, are husband and wife. The deputy of the earth, Zhaozin, and the former right-wing guard of the angel are husband and wife. Cheng Yaowen, who grew up on the earth, and the main god of the Liang civilization are also husband and wife. The Liang civilization is now directly united with the earth. Everyone is in the solar system, and there is no difference between them and a family. Children who grow up in a peaceful environment are naturally more gentle than those who are raised in war. Mom, what's wrong with you? Why do you look a little sad? Yanran asked. No, Du Qiangwei shook her head. No, Yanran looked carefully. Did the female angel say something when she came before? Otherwise, I will go to the Mellow Heavenly Court to talk to Aunt Zixin. She is now the Heavenly King of the Mellow Heavenly Court, and ordinary angels have to listen to her, Yanran said casually. Don't you know who came during the day? Du Qiangwei looked at her daughter curiously. I don't know, is she special? Du Qiangwei's daughter, her status in the Super God universe is similar to Li Qingyun's status in the Marvel universe. As the daughter of galaxy power and space Rose, the daughter of the 2 strongest people in the entire universe, and the daughter of 2 major civilizations, you can imagine how high her status is. On weekdays, she constantly walks between various civilizations, and no matter where she goes, she is praised by everyone. Even in the Mellow Heavenly Court, she is a frequent visitor. Although the current Angel King is Omnisid, the angel Zixin is the right-wing guard of Keisha, and later he was the minister entrusted by Angel Yan to Omnisid. His power and status can be imagined. Zixin and Zhaozin are husband and wife, Zhaozin and Jezzailin are brothers, so Jezzailin's daughter Zixin is naturally taken care of. She is the Holy Keisha, Du Qiangwei said. Holy Keisha? The former Angel King of Mellow Heaven? According to legend, the Holy Keisha who developed Mellow Heaven to its peak and was once called the King of Gods, Yanran was shocked. She didn't expect that the female angel who came to visit her had such a great background. Yes, the king of gods, Du Qiangwei said with emotion. She was the supreme god of the entire super god universe before your father. Later, she was tired of the position of the king of gods, so she took the opportunity to withdraw from the stage of history. Du Qiangwei knew very well why Kesha went offline at that time. Li Qingyun had already told Kesha the situation, and if she really wanted to join forces with Li Qingyun, she would never go offline. In addition, the fact that she was resurrected directly now was enough to prove that Kesha's departure was completely voluntary. Since she has already withdrawn from the stage of history, why is she resurrected now? And come here to find you, Yanran asked in confusion. She wanted to know more about Kesha. I don't know the specific reason for the resurrection, but it may be related to the arrival of a person, Du Qiangwei said. A person? What person? Yanran was even more confused. What kind of person could influence the former king of the gods? That was a teenager. He might be a little older than you, but not much different. And his father was the one who helped your father and I grow up. He was the strongest being in the history of the super god universe, Du Qiangwei explained. You mean the one who defined our universe as the super god universe, and then traveled from other worlds, and took away Uncle Liu Trang, Aunt Kilin and many of your and your father's companions? Yanran's confusion turned into surprise. She grew up listening to Li Qingyun's stories, and now she can actually see his child. How can Yanran not be excited? Yes, Du Qiangwei replied with a smile. Is Li Qingyun here? Yanran didn't care about Xianxia. She cared more about Xianxia's father. After all, he was a person who was highly respected by her parents. He was the one who saved their era and prevented the entire universe from having turned civilization and start all over again like in the past history. Although her father now has the ability to challenge the ultimate fear, in the eyes of her mother and father, Li Qingyun is still much stronger than them. Who wouldn't be curious about a legendary hero? Chapter 752, Kesha returns to Mellow Heaven. Commander Li has not come back, Du Qiangwei said. She did not expect that her daughter would be so interested in Li Qingyun. Ah, so he did not come, Yanran sighed. She really wanted to see what Li Qingyun was like. Only Xianxia came here this time. He is on Earth now. Do you want to go back to Earth with your mother to meet him? Du Qiangwei was still hesitating whether to introduce her daughter to Xianxia. Now that her daughter is here, it is better to see if her daughter will have a good impression of Xianxia and take her back to meet Xianxia first. Meet? Of course I have to meet him. Yanran has lived for more than 20 years. Although she has seen every civilization in the super god universe and can be said to be knowledgeable, she has never seen one that can travel through the dimensional universe. Well, wait for Mom. Mom will tell Achuo and the others to stay and take care of Consistar for a while, and then take you back with them. After Qiangwei finished speaking, she turned around and left here. After all, she is the demon king of Consistar, and now the entire demon civilization is under her management. If she wants to leave and return to Earth, she still has to tell Achuo and Zuyi in advance and let them manage it temporarily. When Du Qiangwei was preparing to take her daughter to Earth, Holy Kesha had already returned to Mellow Heaven. Her return immediately caused a sensation in the entire Mellow Heaven. Although it is now the era of the new king, it is Eniat who is in charge of the entire Mellow Heaven. But she, Holy Kesha, is the founder of Mellow Heaven and the ruler of the most glorious era of angel civilization. Her status in the entire Mellow Heaven is not ordinary. Queen Kesha, Ennead, angels Hixen and other high-level people in Mellow Heaven now all gathered at the door of the hall to personally welcome the return of the King of Gods. The current queen is Ennead, and I am just a retired old man. Kesha walked directly to Ennead. She would not let Ennead give her a big gift. This would be a blow to the status of the new king. I took the position of Angel King when you were away. Now that you are back, you should take the position of Angel King, Ennead said. No matter whether she was happy or not, she had to do it because it was a respect for her predecessors. Moreover, Ennead did not think there was anything wrong with it. She was just an ordinary person. Although she established the holy kingdom of Alan and Fraser and became the queen of the kingdom, she was not worth mentioning at all for the level of God. It was Holy Kesha who chose her as the crown prince and spent a lot of time to pave the way for her to inherit the position of Angel King. Later, due to various unexpected events, she ascended the throne ahead of time and became the Angel King in advance. But after becoming the Angel King, Ennead found that she still had a lot to learn and a long way to go. She inherited the treasure house of sacred knowledge and saw the training plan for her in it. Originally, Kesha planned for her to take 1,000 years to complete her growth and transformation before she could finally succeed the Angel King. But now, she has advanced by more than 900 years. Although she has been matched with a third generation of divine body at once, and various plans such as the sacred body have been prepared. But in the final analysis, she is still too young. She still has a long way to go. She should settle down and develop for a few hundred years. The development of civilization needs new ideas. Although you are still young, your ideas are very suitable for the current mellow heaven. As for your insufficient knowledge, reserves, and fear of being immature because of your young age, the three major forces in the entire Super God universe are now about the same age as you. You are all at the same level. I don't think your ability will be worse than theirs. Keisha saw through Ainaside's thoughts, so she simply comforted her. But, okay, you, the Angel King, have done a good job, and I will not stay here forever after I come back this time. I will leave later, Keisha interrupted Ainaside. Okay, I understand. Ennead was not the kind of person who was indecisive. Since Keisha had already said this, she naturally couldn't postpone it again and again. Zixin, you have done a good job during this period. I have seen your assistance to Ennead. You have completed the tasks I assigned to you very well. Keisha looked at Zixin and gave her praise directly. These are all what I should do, Angel Zixin replied. When Keisha's sacred wings were first used, Keisha specially armed the two of them with sub-biological engines. Wasn't the purpose to allow them to protect Ennead and grow up? Now that Angel Yan is no longer here, she naturally has to work harder to live up to Keisha's expectations. Queen Keisha, how long will you stay this time? Since you are here, perhaps you should personally guide Queen Ennead for a while, Angel Zixin expressed her thoughts. Although Angel Zixin can teach Ennead a lot of knowledge and help Ennead master skills and abilities. But Angel Zixin herself is just a novice, and the highest she has ever been is the right wing guard, so she doesn't really know how to manage a civilization. If it weren't for the older generation Angel Kayla by Enesid's side, Zixin would have no idea how to deal with it. Well, for the next period of time, Enesid, you will follow me. You can ask me at any time if you don't understand anything, Keisha nodded. She also knew the shortcomings of Angel Zixin, but she has always maintained an open mind towards Enesid. Let her figure out everything by herself and let her think about countermeasures by herself. Mastering everything from scratch is actually more reliable than simply learning and inheriting things. But since I have restored my physical body and returned to the mellow heaven, I still have to teach what I should teach. So, it's okay to take care of Enesid for a while. Zixin, you are always busy with the affairs of the mellow heaven court, and you have little time to spend with Zhaozin, right? This time you should take a vacation, do as you wish, go to Earth to find Zhaozin, and then you and your wife can relax for a while. Keisha is very considerate. Since she has taken over the teaching of Enesid, she can naturally let Zixin live the life she wants for a while. But, I want to spend more time with you. Zixin's thoughts are different from Keisha's. Although she and Zhaozin don't meet often, they can still see each other once or twice a year. Keisha is different. It has been 30 or 40 years, and it is not easy to meet again. Chapter 753 Thinking back to the past. Zixin wanted to stay with Keisha. She wanted to spend some time with a queen whom she hadn't seen for decades. But Keisha was very determined. She insisted that she go back to Earth to reunite with Zhaozin and relax. Faced with Keisha's resolute attitude, Zixin had no choice but to get up and go to Earth immediately. Because of the friendly alliance between the three major forces, a large worm bridge terminal that connects the three major forces was actually established. From Earth to mellow heaven, from Kunsa star to Earth, it can be reached through a wormhole in a short time. This is why, although these couples are separated in different areas of the universe, they can still meet each other. As for the less time to meet, it is entirely because their respective work is busy. After all, they are all leaders of several major civilizations, and they are responsible for the management of an entire nebula under the jurisdiction of the entire civilization. Kunsa Star is actually responsible for the management of the Dark Nebula at the same time, because when the Death God Karl was taken away by Li Qingyun, the Dark Nebula was leaderless. The civilization style of the Dark Nebula is incompatible with both the angels and the earth, so it is most appropriate for the Demon Legion to lead it. Therefore, even the Demon King of the Demon Legion, who used to be the most free and easy, is now busy. There are many times like today when the angels Hixin, Du Qiang Wei, Jezailan, and Lena and everyone else get together. Qian Wei, how come you have time to come back? Angel Zixin, who had just left the big insect bridge, immediately saw Du Qiangwei and Jie Yanren. It was not a festival, and there was no special situation. She was able to come back with Du Qiangwei. When she met here, Zixin was naturally curious. I heard that the commander-in-chief's son is back, so I brought Yanren back to see him, Du Qiangwei explained. The commander-in-chief's son? Are you talking about Li Qingyun's son? Zixin was surprised. She did not receive Zhao Xin's message. She only came here because Keisha insisted on giving her a holiday, so she did not know the news that Xianxia was in the Super God's universe. Yes, he came to Earth with your queen Keisha. Keisha should have returned to Mellow Heaven now, right? Did she tell you about this? Du Qiangwei asked with some curiosity. No, Queen Keisha has returned to Mellow Heaven. It is because of her presence that I have time to come to Earth, but she didn't tell me that your commander-in-chief's son came to the Super God's universe. Angel Zixin was puzzled. She had a vague guess that maybe Keisha insisted that she take a vacation to come to Earth because of Li Qingyun's son. But Angel Zixin didn't understand the specific reason, so she could only keep this idea in her heart and make a judgment after figuring out the situation. Let's go. It's only in the past 30 years that we have seen people coming back from other universes. This is a very rare thing. Du Qiangwei had already guessed that Keisha wanted Angel Zixin to come, but now she couldn't tell the reason. Keisha went to find her specifically because she was afraid that Xianxia could read other people's thoughts and know that it was Keisha who arranged these. If she told Zixin, wouldn't Keisha's arrangements be exposed? Well, that's fine. Angel Zixin nodded in agreement. Then, the three of them flew directly to the Earth, to the base of Great Wall Number 1. In the base of Great Wall Number 1, Xianxia was standing in front of the Red Star series, looking at the 5 celestial computers that were separated and connected to each other. When your father was here, these 5 celestial computers were used by 5 people respectively. Your father was number 1, number 2 was Sun Wukong, number 3 was mine, and number 4 and number 5 were my wife Du Qiangwei and Liu Chuang's respectively. Jezailan introduced that the celestial computers that were previously managed by 5 people were now completely managed by Jezailan alone, but Jezailan didn't like it. Because he controlled all of this alone when everyone else was away. Although the computing function of this Red Star series has reached the level of celestial computers, it is already a relatively backward low-end version. Haven't you further developed a new celestial computer? Xianxia is the owner of the big clock. There are many celestial computers in the super god civilizations of the Marvel Universe, each of which is stronger than this Red Star series. Therefore, the Red Star series is already an outdated model in his eyes. Later, I imitated the big clock and rebuilt one. I named it Qianqin, but the role of the Red Star series is still huge. Leaving it here as a backup machine for the Black Great Wall can also play a significant role. Jezailan is now the real power of the galaxy. As the main god, he naturally has his own more powerful celestial computer. But the Red Star series is the starting point and has great commemorative significance. Moreover, although it is relatively backward, it is also at the level of celestial computers. How can it be easily eliminated? That's true. Xianxia also understood these principles, so he didn't say anything more. 3 of the 5 people left, and the remaining one was even dispersed to become the main god of other civilizations. My father's behavior was really unfair, Xianxia sighed. The situation was complicated at that time. The universe on our side was peaceful, but your side was still in chaos. He needed more helpers to solve the troubles over there, Jezailan explained. He couldn't let Xianxia misunderstand his father. 30 years ago. That's right, it was really chaotic over there, Xianxia thought for a while, and then he remembered that when he was 2 or 3 years old, the environment of the Marvel Universe was really bad. The Marvel Universe completely calmed down after Li Qingyun led the Super God civilization to defeat the Hades god Sithin and the Dark Lord Dormammu. At that time, Xianxia was already 5 or 6 years old. So, 30 years ago, the Marvel Cinematic Universe was still in a very dangerous state. When Li Qingyun went back, it was thanks to the help of many powerful people brought over from the Super God universe, otherwise it would be difficult to establish the subsequent Super God civilization. The database of the Great Clock records that there was a war between them and the Celestials. At that time, the Celestials sent out several members of the Celestials and many Eternals to attack the Earth. If it weren't for the many powerful people such as the God of Death Karl, the celestial king Hexi, and the demon king Morgana, the Earth would not be able to find so many powerful people who could compete with the Celestials. If this could not be done, even if Li Qingyun was much stronger than the Celestials at that time, he would not be able to defend the Earth. After all, any Celestial who entered the vicinity of the Earth could slap the Earth away. Chapter 754 The Proud Miss. Xianxia was discussing the past with Jezailan. When talking about the current development of the Black Great Wall, Du Qiangwei and Angel Zixin were already walking towards this side with Jie Yanran. Although Yanran was still a young person in her early 20s, she also had a very high status in the Black Great Wall. After all, although Jezailan had not yet officially become the ruler of the entire Earth, his identity as the main god was already clear. It was just that the management method adopted by the Earth was to separate the military from the civilians, which meant that people like Jezailan, who had absolute force, could not interfere with the development of civilians at will on weekdays. Moreover, the Earth did not like dictators. No matter what form this person existed in, they did not like it. Even if the main god actually had such ability and could manage and guide the Earth very well, he could never appear in that form. Because it took mankind thousands of years to get out of the feudal monarchy and finally have the democratic lifestyle today. Suddenly, because of the arrival of the theocracy, they had to go back to the past, and everything was decided by a certain person's words. No one could accept it. Therefore, although Jie Yanran has the status of a princess, she does not have the identity of a princess, which is different from Xianxia, the prince of the super god civilization. You ask why the super god civilization has developed into this mode? That's because Li Qingyun is not a native of that world. He is not like Jezailan, who was born on this planet and has deep feelings for this place. Therefore, Jezailan can ignore these nominal things and allow this situation to occur. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in the super god civilization, if there is really someone who dares to challenge Li Qingyun, you can see whether Li Qingyun will cut you or not. Xiaolan, Du Qiangwei's voice came from behind, attracting Xianxia and Jezailan, who were still watching the discussion of the Red Star series. The two turned around at the same time and saw three women walking together. Xianxia knew both Angel Zixin and Du Qiangwei, because in the database of the Big Clock, when he was in the super god civilization, the people of Angel and Xiangbinglian had mentioned it to him. But Jie Yanran, who was between the two of them, was not known by Xianxia. Qiangwei, why are you back? When Jezailan saw Du Qiangwei, he immediately went to greet her happily. The couple had been married for more than 20 years, and they were usually apart, so when he saw Du Qiangwei, Jezailan was very happy. Dad, why do you only have eyes for Mom? Don't you see me and Aunt Zixin are here? Jie Yanran complained. Little girl, how can you talk to your dad like this? Jezailan was helpless. His daughter was really spoiled too much, and she didn't take her father seriously. I'm not wrong, how can you be so attached to your wife after being married for more than 20 years? Yanran complained, but at this time, her eyes were already on Xianxia. According to what Du Qiangwei said, he was the son of their former commander-in-chief of the Xiaongbing Company, a mysterious boy who traveled from another world. Traveling through dimensions, this ability is something that even her parents can't do. You know, her parents are recognized by everyone in the four major civilizations of the entire super god universe as the two strongest people in the world. Li Qingyun left with a group of masters, and the remaining Inazit has not grown up yet. Now Jezailan and Du Qiangwei are the strongest, of course. The Space Principal and Keisha are still there, but they are now out of touch with the world and no longer interfere in various matters between civilizations. Yanran, your parents only meet 2 or 3 times a year, and they don't spend much time together each time. You go home often, and you have free time to stay as long as you want. It's not appropriate for you to say that about your parents. Zixin was the peacemaker on the side. She couldn't let Jezailan and Du Qiangwei be too embarrassed. Okay, I won't talk about him anymore, okay, Yanran said, and then walked directly towards Xianxia. What he was most curious about now was what Xianxia was like. Are you the Li Xianxia, the legendary commander-in-chief of the Xiaongbing Company, the son of Li Qingyun? Although she heard from her mother how powerful Li Qingyun was, she had never seen him with her own eyes. Moreover, she knew from childhood that her parents were the strongest in the universe, so Yanran was still confident when facing Xianxia. In fact, to be honest, Jie Yanran gave people the feeling of being a little proud. It's just that her parents' family education was pretty good, and she was proud in her heart, but she would not show it too obviously. Xianxia and Jie Yanren's situation were actually somewhat similar. He was actually very proud in the past. After all, their backgrounds were actually very similar. However, Xianxia had experienced a lot, and during his travels in the infinite multiverse, he knew what it meant that there were people beyond people and there were heavens beyond heavens. The Dark Doctor Strange, Omar who almost controlled his mind, and the three supreme beings of the Cosmic Observer. Of course, Xianxia is no longer afraid of these people now, and is even much more powerful than them. But what he had experienced before has been imprinted in his heart, and his mind has long been mature. You should be Uncle Ji's daughter, right? Xianxia did not use the Eye of Insight. It would be very impolite to use the Eye of Insight to casually look at other people's inner thoughts and investigate their past secrets. After all, this is not facing an enemy or a suspected object. My name is Jie Yanren, what about you? Yanren stretched out her right hand while speaking. She was going to say hello to Xianxia. Li Xianxia also stretched out his hand to shake hers. However, just when he was about to withdraw his hand, he felt a strong energy coming from Jie Yanren's hand. This young lady was actually using her own power to try to test Li Xianxia's ability. The appearance of this scene was immediately noticed by Jezailan and Du Qiangwei, and Du Qiangwei immediately scolded loudly. Yanren, how can you be so rude? Du Qiangwei's personality is stronger than Jezailan's, and she is stricter than Jezailan when teaching her daughter. However, since Jie Yanren had already made a move, she naturally wanted to clarify the situation, so when she heard Du Qiangwei's voice, she had no intention of stopping. But the next moment, she was stunned. Because she had clearly used a lot of strength, but Xianxia in front of her seemed to have no feeling at all, and still stood there calmly. His hand was completely unaffected by the energy emitted by Jie Yanren, and he pulled it back easily. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 755 Jie Yanren was punished. Xianxia's actions stunned everyone at the scene. Although Yanren's actions were very impolite, she was a genuine third-generation super soldier, and inherited the power of the galaxy and the power of time and space from her father and mother. It can be said that Yanren had the two top super genes in the super god universe from the moment she was born, and she was also an existence that might surpass her father and mother in the future. Therefore, even though she was only in her 20s, the strength of her attack was definitely not simple. In addition, the incident happened suddenly. In the absence of Xianxia's prior preparation, in order to be completely unaffected, she must have at least the strength of the fourth-generation god body or above. After all, Jie Yanren's third-generation super soldier was not ordinary. In the super god universe, even some third-generation god body super soldiers were not her opponents. I thought you would at least know some manners and propriety, but now it seems that you are completely a spoiled child, Xianxia said, then turned around and walked towards the celestial computer of the Red Star series, as if nothing had happened. He was too lazy to care about Jie Yanren anymore. This little girl's thoughts were too immature. In Xianxia's opinion, she was just a child who had not grown up. Jie Yanren was very angry. She had never been looked down upon like this in her life. Jie Yanren, a shout came, and Du Qiangwei was already standing in front of Jie Yanren. Jie Yanren saw Du Qiangwei's livid face and immediately realized that she had made a big mistake. She immediately squatted down and pinched her earlobes with both hands. While doing this, she also secretly glanced at Jezailan, but found that Jezailan's face was also not good at this time. You know, even if she made a mistake on weekdays, Jezailan would not be like this. Jezailan was originally a very gentle person, not to mention when facing his little cotton jacket. But today, Jezailan was also angry, because his daughter's behavior this time was really too rude. Xianxia came from afar, and he was the child of Jezailan's former superior. No matter how you look at it, this is a guest that Jie Yanren needs to treat with great courtesy. But Jie Yanren, she had just arrived for a while, and she wanted to use her own strength to provoke the other party. If Xianxia was not a particularly powerful person, but a person who had just become a super soldier, or even just an ordinary person, wouldn't she kill him? Go to the gravity room and don't come out until you have practiced 300 sets of weightlifting items, Jezailan said in a cold tone. Dad, As soon as Jezailin said the content of the punishment, Yanran was immediately unhappy. 300 sets of weightlifting items, that is 100 times for each item, and it is a gravity room specially designed for super soldiers of various levels to adjust the gravity coefficient. Yanran usually went there to train, and she could only do 100 sets a day at most. This time, she was asked to practice 300 sets. It must be completed within one day. If you can't complete it, you will be confined to the Void Star region for a year, Jezailin added. Hearing this, Yanran couldn't hold back at all. She wanted to explode and wanted to ask her father why he treated her like this. However, before she could say this, Du Qiangwei pointed casually, and a space wormhole rolled her in, sending her directly to the gravity room. Qiangqin, monitor the situation in the gravity room. If Yanran dares to cheat, throw her directly to the Void Star field of the Dark Nebula. Jezailin was really angry this time, so much so that Du Qiangwei, who originally wanted to teach her a lesson, began to feel sorry for her daughter at this time. After all, if Du Qiangwei punished her, at most she would be punished to copy books, recite wormhole codes, etc., which are all ideological things. But Jezailin's punishment was directly a devilish training, and if she didn't do well, she would be sent to the Void Star field for confinement. That is the Void Star field. No energy can reach there, and even dark signals will be completely cut off. Staying there for a year is equivalent to an ordinary person being locked up in a cell for a year. Although Yanran is also a super soldier, their lifespans are eternal. But Yanran is only in her 20s now. She must stay in that place for a year all of a sudden. How tormented she must be. Xianxia, I'm sorry. I have spoiled my daughter since she was a child. Please bear with me. Jezailin came to Xianxia and said very sincerely. I understand. I once had a period of time when I felt as superior as she does, Xianxia said. Of course, his words were a bit exaggerated, because he was just proud in his heart, but in fact, his personality was always easygoing. You don't need to give Yanran a way out. I know what kind of personality my daughter has, Jezailin said. He is the most powerful person in the Super God universe now. He is the supreme god who has mastered the void and the anti-void. Even if he is placed in the Marvel universe, in the Super God civilization, only Li Qingyun can suppress him now. Others, even the death god Karl and the heavenly king Hexi, are not sure to win at this moment. Therefore, as long as Jezailin pays attention to what Yanran thinks in her heart on weekdays and what kind of personality she has, he will definitely be able to see through it. It's just that she is his daughter, his sweetheart, so Jezailin usually pampers and spoils her. And Yanran's arrogant character, although a little arrogant, has never done anything rude, so Jezailin didn't take it too seriously. Who would have thought that she would do such a thing today, which can be regarded as touching Jezailin's bottom line? This must be severely punished. You know, when Jezailin saw the arrogant Holy Kesha coming to Earth, he was quite disgusted. Now his daughter has become the same, how can he not be angry? Growing up in the care of millions of people, and her father and mother are the two most powerful people in the world, it is normal to be proud in her heart, and she is still young now. As long as she experiences more things in the future and has someone to guide her, she will be able to adjust quickly, Xianxia said. Then how did your parents teach you when you were in that world? Du Qiangwei came forward. She now has to consider another problem, about how to make Xianxia her son-in-law. My father rarely disciplined me. My mother raised me when I was young, and later my teacher taught me the relevant knowledge of super divine technology. Xianxia was also very polite when facing Du Qiangwei. After all, this person was his senior in any way, at least was senior brother or sister. Chapter 756, this is an attempt to matchmake. Teacher? Who is your teacher? Du Qiangwei asked. My teacher is Izai, the former Heavenly Foundation King of Mellow Heavenly Court, and also my. Xianxia did not continue. After all, the word stepmother did not sound very nice. Your teacher is Izai. Angel Zixin also stepped forward at this time. Oh, right, isn't Zixin a student of Heavenly Foundation King Hexi? So you two are senior and junior sisters. Du Qiangwei knew Zixin's background. At that time, Keisha's sacred double winged guards, the left wing guard Angel Yan was Keisha's student, and the right wing guard Zixin was Hexi's student. Zixin's skills and abilities were all taught by Hexi. Senior sister Zixin, Xianxia also noticed Angel Zixin at this time, so he walked towards her and called her senior sister very sincerely. The teacher once said that she has many students, but you are the most talented among them. She also said that you were the first person to propose to combine the void and the anti-void to create a void controller. This kind of extremely flexible and advanced thinking is very rare. Xianxia really respected the angel Zixin, and he was not stingy with his words of praise. But I feel that I am still far behind you. Angel Zixin looked at Xianxia, and she could feel that the power in Xianxia and the technology he mastered were much higher than hers. I am different. I was born with my father's super genes and inherited my mother's power from the heir, so I have strong talents and strength. The subsequent rapid growth was also cultivated under the accumulation of various huge resources of the super god civilization. Xianxia was very humble. What he said at this moment seemed to be a person who relied on the glory of his father to obtain powerful strength without any effort. But in fact, Xianxia himself was also very outstanding. He, Zhaoqing and Xiaoyan were born in the same year. In terms of birth and configuration, Xianxia is not even as good as his two younger brothers and sisters. But in terms of achievements, Xianxia is more outstanding. It can be seen from the fact that Zhaoqing and Xiaoyan are willing to obey Xianxia's orders, and that Infinite later directly chose Xianxia as the shuttler of the infinite dimensional universe. You are a little too modest, Angel Zixin said. According to my inference, you at least have a sacred body, and you give me a feeling that you didn't have when facing Queen Kisha. Although you are very introverted, I can be sure that your energy level is definitely very high. I'm afraid that even Xiaolan can't suppress you. Angel Zixin's evaluation surprised Du Qiangwei and Xiaolan. Xiaolan is now the strongest in the super god universe. When Li Qingyun left, he said that Xiaolan has the potential to become the supreme god. Now 30 years have passed, and he has further developed his potential for the power of the galaxy to be fully developed. But the evaluation of Angel Zixin is that Xianxia has power comparable to that of Xiaolan. Then, isn't Xianxia now more powerful than Li Qingyun in the super god universe? I just have a special body and a special power. In terms of super god technology, I am really not as good as Uncle Xiaolan. Xianxia was telling the truth. In terms of super god technology alone, he was not as good as Xiaolan. However, in addition to super god technology, Xianxia also has Marvel's divine power, magic power, infinite gems and the blessing of the big clock. Xianxia, how old are you this year? I heard that you have been traveling in the dimensional universe for the past 10 years. Du Qiangwei suddenly changed the subject and began to ask about Xianxia's situation. Because, just after Angel Zixin gave Xianxia that evaluation, Du Qiangwei made a decision. She wanted to bring Xianxia and her daughter together and let them get married. He was born in a noble family, but he was not as arrogant and conceited as his daughter. He had top-level strength, but he was very humble and polite. You couldn't find such a young man even if you held a lantern. You couldn't find one even if you held the sun all over the universe. So, regardless of whether Xianxia would inherit his father's sentimental character, his character and talent were definitely worth entrusting her daughter to. If you count carefully, he's almost 34, Xianxia said. In the past 10 years, I have been traveling in various dimensional universes. Before coming to the Super God universe, I had been to several other dimensional universes, Transformers universe, Pacific Rim universe, DC movie universe, among which he stayed in Transformers universe and DC movie universe for the longest time. In addition, Xianxia had actually been to some other universes, but those universes were directly ignored by Xianxia, because there was nothing worth his stay and attention in those universes. 34? That's the right age to get married. You've been out for more than 10 years. Won't your fiancé miss you? Du Qiangwei asked. As soon as he said this, Xianxia immediately felt like his aunts and uncles were about to ask about his marital status. However, this was his elder after all, so Xianxia couldn't help but answer. Aunt Qiangwei, I don't have a girlfriend yet, Xianxia explained. No girlfriend? Aren't your parents anxious? Du Qiangwei's question was a bit far-fetched, but in order to introduce her daughter later, she had to do so even if she was embarrassed. I was only 23 when I left home. I'm still very young. Besides, we are all super soldiers with eternal lifespans. Whether we are married or not doesn't really have much impact on us. Xianxia had already guessed what Du Qiangwei was going to do, so he simply brought up the situation of the super soldiers. Super soldiers, especially after upgrading to divine bodies, can theoretically live forever. Moreover, the bodies of super soldiers are set by super genes, which means they can stay young forever. So why would they need to start a family? Look at the holy Kisha, who is still single at 30,000 years old. There are more than 30,000 female angels in the mellow heaven, more than half of whom are more than a few thousand years old, or even tens of thousands of years old. How many of them need to get married? Even if you say that the culture of Earthlings is different, but in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the super soldiers who follow their fathers from the super god civilization over from the super god universe, except for Wukong who originally had a girlfriend and Liu Chuang who later fell in love with Fang Xing, aren't the others unmarried? However, Du Qiangwei knew all these reasons, but she simply ignored them. Chapter 757, Speculations about Life. Although the lifespan of a super soldier is eternal, eternity for one person is too lonely. Besides, Xianxia, aren't you going to travel in the infinite dimensional universe? Living alone all the time must be more lonely, so it is necessary to find a companion to travel with. Du Qiangwei's reason was quite sufficient. But she also found a good reason for Xianxia to refuse. It is impossible to take other people with you when traveling in the dimensional universe, because this kind of power can only act on myself, otherwise I would not have left my father and others alone. Xianxia explained that this reason can perfectly refute what Du Qiangwei had just proposed. Can take others with you? Du Qiangwei was surprised. But when your father came to our super god universe, he took many people with him when he returned, and you also said before that they are all living well in your place now. Doesn't this prove that dimensional travel can use some methods to take people away? Du Qiangwei said, and Jezailan and Angel Xiaxin also nodded in agreement. Father was able to do it because he had different powers from both the super god universe and the Marvel universe in his body, which made his body extremely special. Father integrated the cosmic membrane of the small world into his body, opened up an independent world in his body, and hid the people of the super god universe in this small world, so he could bring people back to the Marvel universe safely. But I'm different. I'm going to unfamiliar dimensional universes. That kind of dimensional shuttle can't bring people. Even if I also use the cosmic membrane to create a dark plane world in my body, it won't work, Xianxia explained. But at this moment, he suddenly thought of a problem, a very critical problem. The Autobots in his body. Thinking of this, Xianxia immediately shifted his attention to his dark matter plane space. That's where he placed the Autobots. After leaving the DC universe, Xianxia didn't contact the Autobots. Now he thought that if he couldn't transfer his life form to other dimensional universes, wouldn't it mean that the life of the Autobots would also disappear? If so, he would harm his comrades. Fortunately, when his consciousness entered the dark matter plane, he saw his comrades. They were all parked in the parking spaces, and he could hear the sounds of the Autobots' bodies running. The Autobots are alive. Although they are mechanical life forms, they also have sounds similar to pulses and heartbeats, which Xianxia can easily perceive. Fortunately, their lives were not affected by crossing the dimensional universe. Xianxia breathed a sigh of relief. At least he did not kill the Autobots. Big Clock, what do you think about this? Xianxia did not immediately withdraw his thoughts, but asked the Big Clock about the question of the Autobots crossing the dimensional universe with him. In the beginning, no life form could follow you to leave the Marvel universe. This is beyond doubt, the Big Clock replied. But now, the Autobots have followed me from the Transformers world all the way to the DC universe. Although the Autobots at that time were dead and were just a pile of lifeless metal, we have restored their life forms in the DC universe. They are actually real living beings, Xianxia said. He attached great importance to this issue at the moment, because he knew that if this issue could be proven and it could be confirmed that other people could really follow when traveling through the dimensional universe, then Xianxia would not have to travel alone in the future. He could go back to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and bring Zhao King and Xiaoyan with him. The three siblings could continue as they did in the Marvel Infinite Multiverse. He could also find someone else as a companion and travel together. You know, a person's infinite dimensional journey is actually very lonely. Although Xianxia had always been alone before, it was because he had no choice, because the ability he had could only allow him to travel through the dimension alone. Between being completely unable to travel through the dimension and enduring a little loneliness, he would naturally choose to endure loneliness, because the benefits brought to him by continuous travel were far greater than the price paid for this loneliness. But if there is a choice, who would not want to have a companion? What you said makes sense, but there is another possibility. In the dimensional travel, Transformers are regarded as machines rather than real life forms, so they can be free from this constraint. But other flesh, or carbon-based organisms will still be affected by this. The big clock said its judgment on this. Under the premise of making judgments based entirely on logical thinking, such a guess is undoubtedly the safest. What you said makes sense. Xianxia naturally understood that what the big clock said was correct, but thinking that this might really be feasible, he couldn't help but want to try it. The time interval between the dimensional universes is 2 years, so if you really want to try it, it is recommended to start it after 2 years. The big clock already knew Xianxia's idea, so it immediately gave a relevant solution. I understand. I haven't decided who to take with me to travel through the dimension yet, so there is no rush for this matter. Xianxia also understood that this kind of thing can't be rushed. If the travel across dimensions can be decided in a few words and then tested immediately, there would not have been no one who could travel freely through the dimensional journey in the past. Xianxia, did you encounter any problems? Xianxia's thoughts just came out of the dark plane space, and Du Qiangwei's voice rang in his ears. No, I just thought of something, so I went into the dark plane to discuss with the big clock. Xianxia shook his head and replied. Big clock? The big clock is on you. Angel Xiaxin was surprised. This is the greatest celestial computer in the history of the Super God universe, and he didn't expect it to be on Xianxia's body. This time when I came out to travel through infinite dimensions, my father gave me the big clock to be on the safe side. Xianxia answered casually, but his answer surprised all three people. Although this is just giving a celestial computer to your own child, other people may also do this, but giving a big clock has a completely different meaning. Chapter 758. This is the successor chosen by Li Qingyun. After the emergence of the technology of the Void Controller, it is no longer a difficult task to manufacture celestial computers. In fact, in the current Super God universe, if Jezzailin is willing, he can continue to manufacture new celestial computers and provide them to some powerful people who have reached a relatively high level of strength. But the big clock is different. Because no matter how the celestial computer is manufactured, no matter how its technology is innovated, it is impossible to surpass the big clock. Because the celestial computer will be upgraded with the upgrading of technology, and the database contained in it is the key to determining the operating ability of the celestial computer. In other words, no matter what the circumstances, unless a new and more special computer appears, the big clock will always be the most powerful existence in the celestial computer. Li Qingyun can hand over the big clock to Li Xianxia in this case, which already represents Li Qingyun's attitude. Xianxia is already the heir chosen by Li Qingyun and the real inheritor of Li Qingyun. Li Qingyun himself started his career with the big clock, and the big clock means something special to him. Being able to hand over the big clock to Xianxia means that Li Qingyun hopes that Xianxia will reach the pinnacle of the dimensional universe in the future, just like Li Qingyun himself. It seems that your father has high hopes for you. Jezzailin didn't think too much, and stepped forward directly, saying with emotion. My father originally wanted me to be the main god of the super god civilization, but then Infinity suddenly appeared and said that he needed to find someone to travel through the infinite dimensions, and among all my brothers and sisters, only I was the most suitable, so I came out. Xianxia didn't hide it, because he had discovered that Jezzailin was a person with a relatively straightforward personality. If he was a little more reckless, he would be comparable to Liu Chuang. Therefore, Jezzailin was not delicate and artificial when facing him, so Xianxia would naturally say what he wanted to say when facing him. If that's the case, your status is much more noble than the girl Yanran, Jezzailin said. But my daughter is arrogant and domineering all day long, and she is so rude to you. After Jezzailin said this, Du Qiangwei felt a little depressed. Is this how her husband evaluates her daughter? Doesn't he know to say more good things about his daughter in front of outsiders? That way, it will be better for his daughter and let Xianxia have a good impression of their daughter. Yanran should really learn from you, learn your attitude towards life, learn your humble attitude when facing things, and learn from you. Even if her background and ability are already excellent, she still wants to make herself stronger and keep growing. Jezzailin sincerely admired Xianxia, and Du Qiangwei was happy to hear this. I haven't thought of any way to let Xianxia and Yanran be together before. Isn't this opportunity here? Yes, Yanran is too immature. You have to teach her more in the future. Du Qiangwei stepped forward. Xianxia, how about letting Yanran follow you and study with you during your stay in the Super God universe? Du Qiangwei said a real idea. She wanted Xianxia to have more opportunities to interact with her daughter. Only in this way can Xianxia develop feelings for her daughter. Du Qiangwei likes this son-in-law more and more. This, Xianxia didn't expect that Du Qiangwei would make this request at this time. Yes, let Yanran study with you. With her personality and her background, few people dare to control her on weekdays, let alone few people can control her. I am the main god of the earth now, and I can't get away from many things on earth on weekdays. Your aunt Qiangwei is also the demon king statue of the demon army, and Kunsa Star can't leave her for a long time, so, you are a very suitable teacher. Jezailan didn't know what Du Qiangwei was thinking. He just thought it was a good idea based on this situation. But you all saw what happened between me and Sister Yanran before. I'm afraid she hates me to death. How can she still stay by my side and listen to my teachings? Xianxia said. He was now facing a group of elders. It was really hard to refuse a group of elders asking him to help take care of a sister. Unless Xianxia didn't plan to associate with them in the future and didn't plan to care about the past disputes. But Xianxia couldn't do such a thing. Even though he was more serious on weekdays and was the kind of person who did what he said. But such things, under the framework of Chinese civilization, would be the same no matter where they went. Don't worry about this. I will deal with Yanran. I will make her obedient. If she does anything wrong, tell me and I will teach her a lesson. Jezailan wanted to say that if it was difficult, forget it. But before he opened his mouth to say this, Du Qiangwei interrupted him directly. Jezailan was simple-minded and didn't think too much. But Du Qiangwei's mind was now fully mobilized. In order to find a satisfactory son-in-law for herself, she had to spend more effort. Okay, Xianxia finally agreed. Even if it wasn't because of Du Qiangwei's attitude, it was because Jezailan was really friendly to him. It was just to take care of Yanran during the 2 years of staying in the Super God universe. Moreover, the other party was already an adult in his 20s. Even if there were some minor problems with her personality, he didn't need to worry too much. However, Du Qiangwei always gave him a strange feeling, as if she couldn't wait to send her daughter away. But Xianxia couldn't read Du Qiangwei's thoughts at all, and didn't know what Du Qiangwei was thinking in her heart. Otherwise, he could also use the eye of insight to see what Du Qiangwei was planning, so as to think of countermeasures. It can only be said that Holy Keshel was too smart. He had already guessed Xianxia's situation and knew that only Du Qiangwei could do this perfectly. In the entire Super God universe, there are only 2 or 3 people who can avoid Xianxia's eye of insight and directly read information. Galaxy Power, Time and Space Rose, the strongest people in the Super God universe are only 4 people now, and the other 2 are Reina, the main god of the Fiery Sun civilization, and Enicide, the main god of the Angel civilization. But the strength of those 2 is not comprehensive. Reina has the strongest destructive power because she is the light of the sun, but in a real fight, she is far inferior to Galaxy Power and Time and Space Rose. The technology of the Fiery Sun in the Void level has fallen behind a lot. Enicide's strength is entirely due to her configuration, the blessing of Keisha's arsenal and the sacred knowledge treasure house. But Enicide's own growth is still not enough, and she needs a longer time. Chapter 759 Comparison. Faced with Du Qiangwei's request, Xianxia could not find a reason to refuse, so in the end he could only accept the matter of taking Yanran with him for a period of time. On the other hand, Yanran also honestly completed the 300 sets of weightlifting exercises required by Jezailan. In the specially made gravity room, while exercising at her limit, Yanran also experienced an experience of exhaustion and tiredness. On weekdays, she only did 100 sets, and 150 sets were her limit. But Jezailan would not give up until 300 sets were completed, and even asked Qianqin to supervise directly. Faced with a full monitoring of Qianqin's computer, Yanran had to endure it no matter how reluctant or hard it was. That night, she was so tired that she collapsed on the bed and could not move at all. Du Qiangwei brought food to Yanran's room and looked at her daughter who was complaining and sulking on the bed. Why, do you feel wronged? Du Qiangwei knew her daughter too well. She knew Yanran was depressed because Jezailan punished her too severely. I'm not wronged, I just have a miserable life. When Yanran faced her mother, she acted like a spoiled child naturally. You don't even know what a miserable life is, Du Qiangwei sighed, and the tone of her voice also made Yanran subconsciously raise her head. In the 10 years before you were born, the entire Earth was facing a huge crisis, an interstellar war that could sweep in at any time, threatening the lives of the 7 billion people on Earth. The Teodi civilization descended from the sky and wanted to destroy our entire planet. The demon army appeared out of nowhere and killed tens of thousands of civilians in one go through the implantation of demon genes. The subsequent all-out war caused tens of millions of people to die in a very short period of time. At such a critical moment, it was your brother Xianxia's father who stood up and led us to block all invaders from the Earth. Look at the Earth today. The population has basically not decreased. And all civilizations in the universe can get along in a friendly manner, right? But your father and I once predicted that if Xianxia's father had not appeared that year, the final result of our war in the universe would be more tragic than you can imagine. Du Qiangwei's words were the result of a simulation she and Zhezialan and others made using Qianqin. It is precisely because of this that all these super warriors in the super god universe now respect Li Qingyun so much. Because all of them knew that the appearance of Li Qingyun was the key to saving the entire super god universe and more than half of the population of the four main god civilizations. Moreover, the four main god civilizations in the super god universe can now live in complete harmony, which is also influenced by Li Qingyun. Li Qingyun incorporated the Liang civilization into the solar system, allowing the descendants of the two civilizations of Denro to merge with the Liang civilization, and then settled on Mars and combined with the Earth, becoming the strongest among the three major forces today. Letting Du Qiangwei be the demon king of the demon civilization has largely resolved the hostility of the angels and the Earth to the demons. And because of the suppression of Du Qiangwei, the demon civilization itself will not make any unfavorable moves against the other two forces. Also, you feel that you have an innate sense of superiority when facing Xianxia, and that you are born to be a noble princess, but do you know that Xianxia is actually a true prince? Our super god civilization now coexists with three major forces. Although your father and I are the main gods of the two major forces respectively, we do not actually have absolute ruling power. At least in deciding the subsequent development of civilization, we need to refer to the opinions of many people below. Moreover, although the angel civilization is on good terms with us, they are actually a completely independent cosmic civilization. They are only polite to you and do not need to have any respect for you. But do you know that Xianxia is already recognized as the next heir in another universe? Moreover, the universe where Xianxia is located is much larger than ours, and the super god civilization they created has absolute power in that universe. You are just a spoiled eldest lady, and he is the real next ruler of the universe. Where do you feel superior when facing him? Du Qiangwei said a lot, and they all started from the aspects that Zhe Yanran has always been proud of. Also, you think you are very strong, right? But do you know how strong Xianxia is now? Du Qiangwei asked. Zhe Yanran was a little teasing after hearing the previous ones. After all, that was the power of his family and Li Xianxia's identity and background. It was nothing compared to this. What is his strength? Zhe Yanran asked back. His eye of insight can now read any information of everyone in the entire super god universe except me and your father. Moreover, I have tried to read Xianxia's information before, but I didn't get any data. In other words, the strength he has at this stage is at least at the same level as me and your father, Du Qiangwei said. Hearing what she said at this moment, Zhe Yanran was completely dumbfounded. Being at the same level as her parents, Zhe Yanran knew very well that her parents were the two strongest people in the entire super god universe. Zhe Yanran herself was very talented and was considered to have the opportunity to surpass her parents in the future. But even so, Zhe Yanran was only a third-generation super soldier now. According to her father, she needs to go through a period of tempering to become a god, and her super gene needs to be matched with a divine body. Although there are a few very powerful gods missing in the current super god universe, such as the former demon king Morgana, the god of death Karl, the heavenly king Hexi, and the fighting Buddha, etc. But there are still many people who have the third generation of divine bodies. For example, some old people in the two major civilizations of super god civilization and demon civilization. Those with more experience have divine bodies. There are also some very powerful ones above the divine body, such as the early warriors of the Heroes Company, including Zhao Xin, who is the deputy of the Earth Galaxy Force. In addition, there are Cheng Yaowen, Rina, Zixin, and Inixid. Although they are not as strong as Zhezialan and Du Qiangwei, they are also the third generation of divine bodies, and some have even upgraded to the fourth generation of divine bodies or sacred bodies. Even Du Qiangwei can't see through Xianxia's information, which means that Xianxia is already more powerful than those mentioned above. Chapter 760 Brother Xianxia. After Du Qiangwei's efforts to enlighten her, Jie Yanran finally accepted the fact that she was too bad compared to Xianxia. The next morning, Jie Yanran got up early, dressed herself up, put on her favorite skirt, and took the initiative to walk towards the place where Xianxia lived. Xianxia has been living a very relaxed life recently. During the day, he looked around, looked at the black Great Wall that his father had helped to build, and met the super soldiers of the Ziongbin Company who were trained and cared for by his father. At night, he returned to his villa to do some research of his own, or sort out some information collected from the DC universe. Although Xianxia has left the DC universe now, he actually took away a lot of things when he was in the DC universe. For example, Superman's genetic backup, as well as the genetic data of many superheroes such as Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and the Flash. In addition, the genes of Doomsday, Steppenwolf, and especially Steppenwolf after being strengthened by Dr. Manhattan, are also the focus of Xianxia's research. Analyzing these genes, investigating whether there is anything special in them, and finding out the possible help these genes can bring to oneself are all very worthwhile things to do. When Li Qingyun was in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he once collected the genes of all superheroes for analysis. Learn from the strengths of all, and then find out what you can learn from and apply to strengthen yourself. This kind of thing can bring great benefits to yourself. If you accidentally discover some special gene chains, you may be able to find a way to make the genes evolve further. Xianxia, who had just woken up, had just brushed his teeth and was about to make some breakfast. But at this moment, the doorbell rang. Xianxia took a casual look and knew who the person was. Just looking at the person who came, Xianxia had a bad idea in his mind. Why is she here? Xianxia had just caused Jie Yanran to be punished by her father yesterday. Now Jie Yanran should be very angry with him, but she actually came to him on her own initiative. Is she here for revenge? Xianxia thought in his heart. He did not use the Eye of Insight, because there was no need to use these abilities at this time, nor was there any need to do such a thing. Unable to figure it out, he simply waved his hand casually and opened the door of the villa. Seeing the door open, Yanran immediately walked in, holding a lunchbox in her hand, which contained the breakfast she prepared by herself. Brother Xianxia had just walked to the hall when Jie Yanran saw her and immediately shouted. However, this name and the soft voice made Xianxia feel numb in an instant. This look, this name. Xianxia felt that a bad premonition was getting stronger and stronger. Just call me Xianxia, don't bother calling me brother. Xianxia adjusted his mood a little and explained. That won't work. Your father is the benefactor of my parents and the commander-in-chief who helped them grow up. If we count our two families, we should be considered as old friends. It's so impolite to call each other by their names when we have such a close relationship. Jie Yanran has already made up her mind. She wants to have a good relationship with Xianxia. She has even tacitly agreed to do Qiangwei's arrangement of a marriage between her and Xianxia. That's not necessary. You are older than me, so I will call you brother Xianxia. You can also call me sister Yanran in the future, or just call me Yanran or sister. Xianxia was still hesitant to speak, but Jie Yanran introduced him very familiarly. I heard from my father that you have been living here alone recently. Although super soldiers, especially those with divine bodies, don't need to eat much, food itself is not only for replenishing energy, but also a kind of great enjoyment. You must not have made much breakfast here alone, right? I made your portion today and brought it to you. After Yanran finished speaking, she walked directly to the table in the living room. She put the lunchbox on the table, and then took out the food one by one. Sunny side up fried eggs, double side up fried eggs, white porridge, soy milk, sandwiches, cold noodles, fried hairtail. This breakfast can be said to be quite rich, and the amount is even enough for several ordinary people. However, they are all super soldiers, and their appetite cannot be judged by ordinary people's standards. With ease now, Xianxia can easily eat them all by himself. Moreover, super soldiers do not need to feel full. Although it is useful to use food to replenish energy, the higher the level of the divine body, the less necessary it is. Therefore, whether to eat or not depends mainly on mood and habit. Come on, brother Xianxia, try my cooking, Yanran called. Xianxia looked at the table of food. For this kind of food, although there is micro-wormhole transportation technology, many raw materials do not need to be specially found, but it takes a lot of time to make so many at once. You prepared so much, didn't it take a long time? Xianxia asked. Although he wanted to refuse, It would be too sad if he didn't eat a single bite of the food a girl spent the whole morning preparing for him. I usually prepare it for my parents, and I'm just making it for you today. It's not a bother, Yanran said. But Xianxia knew Yanran. Just like yesterday's situation, if Yanran was really so well behaved, she would never do that. So, what Yanran said at this moment was just a courtesy, just to relieve Xianxia's psychological burden. But Xianxia was still hesitating. Don't say but, eat quickly, these dishes will soon get cold without the heat preservation effect after leaving the lunchbox, and they won't taste good if they get cold, Yanran urged. Okay, Xianxia agreed reluctantly, and then walked over. Sitting down opposite Yanran immediately handed over a pair of chopsticks and a soup spoon. Xianxia was very uncomfortable watching Yanran being so proactive and polite, but he had no choice but to take over the chopsticks and spoon. In the following time, Xianxia ate breakfast under Yanran's supervision. To be honest, these breakfasts were all pretty good. Although they were all very simple foods, they would not be so good if they were not made often. So, what Yanran said before, that she often made it for her parents, should be true. Chapter 761, Unable to Refuse. The breakfast was still delicious, but Xianxia was somewhat absent-minded when eating. It was mainly because of Yanran's personality. The change before and after seemed quite different. Yesterday, she was still a very arrogant and rude person. When facing Xianxia, she wanted to test Xianxia's strength while shaking hands. After being scolded by her father, she was still very unwilling and felt that she was wronged. But today she suddenly became so polite, as if she really regarded herself as a brother. After breakfast, Yanran quickly put away everything on the table, put it back in the lunchbox, and then put it away through the dark matter plane space. That? Yanran, thank you for treating me to breakfast, Xianxia said. He was a little hesitant just now, and didn't know how to call Yanran for a while. But in the end, he decided to just call Yanran sister or something. Even if it was Xiaoyan, she was his biological sister, and she didn't always say sister on weekdays, so he really couldn't call her. What's the big deal? You've finally come to our universe. As the host, I have to take good care of the guests, Yanran said with a bright smile on her face. When I make breakfast in the future, I will leave a portion for you. I will bring it to you every day. Okay, well, I have to go to Mars next time, and I may not be back for the next 2 days, Xianxia spoke quickly. He felt a little uncomfortable after today's meal. If he comes again tomorrow, he will probably have indigestion. Going to Mars? Are you going to see Aunt Raina? Yanran asked. Well, I have visited all the places that can be visited on Earth in the past 2 days. Next, I want to go to Aunt Raina and Uncle Cheng Yaowen to see, Xianxia nodded. Xianxia had a lot of these uncles and aunts when he was in the Marvel Universe. He called them since he was a child, so when he calls Raina and Cheng Yaowen now, it is also very smooth. It's just right. I haven't seen them for a long time. I'll go with you, Yanran said. But you finally came back to Earth? Why don't you spend more time with your father? Xianxia said he wanted to go to Mars just to avoid Yanran, and now Yanran immediately said she wanted to go with him, so he was naturally not happy. Now there are big insect bridges connecting Earth, Consistar and Mellow Heavenly Palace, which makes it very convenient to travel. It's just that I was not here when you came. I usually spend most of my time on Earth with my father, Yanran answered, and Xianxia was completely speechless. The last reason he found had been refuted by the other party. If he said more now, it would seem too unkind. In desperation, Xianxia could only take Yanran with him and set off for Mars. On Earth now, even going to Mellow Heavenly Palace and Consistar is not a complicated matter. Going to Mars is naturally just like going from one city to another on Earth before, which is a very simple matter. They just need to cross the space insect bridge, and then they can go from Earth to Mars. After arriving on Mars, they can directly locate Rena's coordinates. Xianxia is the son of Li Qingyun, and the identity has been spread early. Now that they are accompanied by Miss Yanran, the two naturally came to the palace where Raina is very easily. The model of Liang civilization is different from that of Earth civilization. It belongs to the ancient style. Raina is the queen, and she has several generals under her command. They are all super warriors who once followed Pan Zhen. Now that Pan Zhen has retired, they all stay to assist Raina. There are also Raina's confidants, such as Chifeng Xianhu, who is a good friend who grew up with Raina. When Reina knew about the arrival of Xianxia and Yanran, she also attached great importance to it. She directly threw some daily things to Chifeng Xianhu and several other generals, and went to greet them in person. With her came Chang Yaowen, who received the news. This prince of Dexing civilization has now become the king of Denro civilization, but Denro civilization has been destroyed. Although he is now over 10,000, he is actually just the mayor of a larger city. If you really count, Liang civilization is similar, and the total population is only about a few million. It can only be said that after the development of science and technology to the level of super god technology, the population is not large. This is the case with the Liang civilization and Denner civilization, and even the angel civilization and demon civilization are similar. Especially the angel civilization, the total number of its core angels is only tens of thousands, at most hundreds of thousands, including many retired ones, and the angel legion is only 30,000. In other words, the Earth is a bit special. While developing super god technology, it has also retained the living habits of the pre-nuclear civilization era, so the population is relatively large. The super god civilization in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the same. Li Qingyun does not pay much attention to the basic forms of various life planets. They just concentrate resources and technology on the floating city and some key groups on each planet. This model is actually similar to the Mellow Heaven. Mellow Heaven and the Angel Legion are the core, and the surrounding pre-nuclear civilizations and aerospace-level civilizations in various nebulae, such as the Yaran civilization, are all their subsidiaries. The biggest difference is that Mellow Heaven does not directly govern these surrounding civilizations. The super god civilization has direct jurisdiction over the Earth and all other life planets. Li Qingyun will send personnel to manage them. We just came here to play. Why did you two come to greet us in person? How embarrassing. Seeing Reina and Chang Yaowen coming in person, Xianxia hurried forward to greet them. They are all seniors, and they still need others to come to the Great Insect Bridge to greet them in person. It is enough to show how much they value him. Xiaolun has said that you are very polite and courteous, but you don't have to be so reserved when facing us, Reina said, while casually patting Xianxia's shoulder. It was as if she was not facing a junior of her own, but an old friend of the same age and generation as herself. Yes, Cheng Yaowen echoed from the side. Although we are queens and kings, we are actually just mayors of two small cities. We have a large group of people to help us manage the residents in the city. We don't have to do anything on weekdays. Cheng Yaowen also wanted to be as relaxed as possible, but his appearance and the tone of his voice were not that lively. It can only be said that Cheng Yaowen and Lena are just two people who complement each other. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 762 Who Said I Don't Want To? In the following time, Xianxia and Yanran, under the guidance of Cheng Yaowen and Reina, began to visit the two cities of Liang civilization and Denner civilization. In the past 30 years, they have transformed the entire Mars, turning Mars, a planet that was originally not suitable for human survival, into a planet with a very suitable environment. In addition, although Cheng Yaowen and Reina both said that they only managed a city, the scale of their city was not small. The two cities are located in the east and west hemispheres of Mars, and the scale of each city is much larger than a country on Earth. They are all super warriors, each of whom has a very high status and ability, and the living environment is impossible to be the same as those ordinary people on Earth. However, in such a highly civilized city, there is really no need for anyone to manage it all the time. There are celestial computers monitoring the movements of the entire city, and there are complete laws that stipulate everyone's code of conduct. In this case, there is no need for a large group of people like on Earth to manage it diligently every day. Two queens and kings like Reina and Chang Yaowen, what they have to do on weekdays is not even as much as what a village chief has to do on Earth. In contrast, Jezai Island, who manages the Earth, and Du Kayang Wei, who manages the demonic civilization, are really busy. Jezai Island is in charge of a civilization like Earth with two completely different levels of technology. Du Kayang Wei is in charge of a civilization with a bad past. I really envy Uncle Cheng and Aunt Reina. You two don't have much to do on weekdays. Unlike my parents, there are all kinds of things going on all day long. Even if my mom returns to Earth, She still has to learn about the situation on Kunsa Star remotely and know the situation of all the soldiers of the demon army in the universe at any time, Yanran complained. She really felt that her parents, as the two main gods, were much harder than Reina and Changyaowen. They have to manage two huge civilizations, which is naturally different from the two of us who only manage a group of survivors, Reina said. At first, she was actually reluctant to admit this. After all, the former Liang civilization was one of the four main god civilizations in the universe. But now she has slowly accepted the reality. The Liang civilization was already dead in name only when Liang Star was destroyed. They are now just a group of survivors, not much different from the descendants of the Denner civilization. However, they are still relatively lucky. The Earth accepted them and left them a planet in the solar system so that they can resettle and be well protected. In addition, the environment in the universe has been very peaceful in the past few decades, so they can still survive well after the fall of civilization, and the living environment is even constantly improving compared to the past. Civilization led by super god technology has originally developed in this way. Xianxia is very easy to accept all this. Because, you only need to look at his parents to know. Li Qingyun is in the super god civilization. He manages hundreds of life planets and hundreds of billions of lives, but in the end there is nothing for him to do. Now think about it, why did Li Qingyun expand his harem in the end and let Liang Bin join in? Isn't it because he is too idle on weekdays? When you are well fed and warm, you will think about sex. What's more, you have plenty of free time and your body is not afraid of being overwhelmed. If you don't think about sex, you will be sorry for the situation. Xianxia, I heard that you are not married yet? Do you want Auntie Reina to introduce you to a girlfriend? Reina suddenly looked at Xianxia and blurted out this question. Xianxia just thought about his father and his many wives. When Reina suddenly asked this question without any reason, he was also confused. No introduction. Before Xianxia could answer, Yanran on the side quickly interrupted. Yanran, I know your mother wanted to match you and Xianxia, but didn't you refuse at that time? Since you refused, why don't you let others try? Your sister Chifeng is not young now, and her conditions are also very good. What if Xianxia likes her? Reina said, and when she said this, Xianxia knew why Reina would bring up introducing him to someone. It turned out that when she was on Earth, the news that Du Qiangwei wanted to introduce Yanran to her had spread outside. Who said I didn't want to? Who spread the rumor? Yanran was anxious. At that time, she had no idea about Xianxia's situation. She was very proud and naturally didn't want her mother to marry her off so easily. But now she knew Xianxia's ability. She even prepared breakfast for Xianxia and pestered him to go out with him, just to increase her favor with Xianxia. Rumor? No way, Lena said with a confused look on her face. This is what your Aunt Zixin told me these 2 days. When your mother was trying to match you with Xianxia, Zixin was watching. She also said that when your mother asked Xianxia later, Xianxia didn't agree, so she asked you if everyone should discuss it and introduce a few more people to Xianxia. This matter of love, isn't it all about fate? You two don't like each other, but what if you like someone else? Lena said casually. She didn't even notice Yanran's resentful eyes at this time. Aunt Zixin, how could she say that? Yanran was depressed. But although she was resentful, she couldn't really blame anyone. It was her attitude that was bad at the time, and later Xianxia didn't agree to get engaged to her because Du Qiangwei told her in person. Zixin was at the scene at the time, and she saw everything with her own eyes. It was natural for her to have such thoughts. But who would be so anxious? In the past, people had to meet a few more times before deciding whether they were suitable for each other, right? They had just met for the first time. How could they be judged as unsuitable just because of this disagreement? Oh, you look like you are willing. Lena finally noticed Yanran's expression and said something after realizing it. You said so too. If you had the idea, you shouldn't have refused so decisively at that time, causing your Aunt Zixin to misunderstand. I also heard that she plans to look for a few angels in the mellow heavenly court, and wants to take Xianxia to see them later. No, absolutely not. Yanran stood up and interrupted Lena before she finished her words. Chapter 763. Why is he so anxious? Yanran was anxious. This time she was really anxious. If it was just a Chifeng Xianhu, Yanran thought it was nothing. After all, she was prettier than Chifeng Xianhu, and Chifeng Xianhu had a good relationship with her. If they knew that she liked Xianxia, Chifeng Xianhu would probably withdraw. But if the angels were really involved, the situation would be different. Angels are a race with the most beautiful women in the universe, and there are not many angels who have a good relationship with her. If Xianxia really likes someone, the other party will definitely not give it to her. At that time, Yanren's position will be precarious. No, this matter can't be delayed. I must go back to Aunt Zixin and make it clear. Yanren thought so in her heart, and then she stood up immediately. Aunt Lena, Uncle Chang, I have some things to do first. I will come back when I have time. After saying that, she turned around and left immediately. And she opened the micro-wormhole and went directly to the entrance of the Big Worm Bridge, then crossed the Big Worm Bridge and immediately returned to the earth, and hurried to Zhao Xin's house. When Yanren arrived at Zhao Xin's house, Zhao Xin and Zixin were snuggling together, watching nostalgic movies at home. Zixin was born an angel, and she didn't like these movies. But Zhao Xin was a pure straight man on earth, and he didn't know how to coax girls on weekdays. When his wife came back, he thought about watching a movie or going shopping with her. But compared to shopping, Zixin would definitely prefer to watch a movie, because then she and Zhao Xin could lie together comfortably like now. However, today the two of them were destined not to enjoy this world of two people. Bang bang bang. Uncle Zhao, Aunt Zixin, I'm Yanren, I have something important to talk to you about. There was no time to ring the doorbell. Yanren stood at the door and knocked on the door rudely. Hearing the noise coming from outside the door, even Zhao Xin and Zixin in the movie projection room immediately sensed Yanren's anxiety. Faced with such a situation, how could the two of them still be sick of each other, and they immediately tidied their clothes. Zixin stayed to clean up the projection room, while Zhao Xin hurried to open the door to greet Yanren. After opening the door, Zhao Xin was about to say something, but Yanren spoke first. Uncle Zhao, where's Aunt Zixin? Seeing Yanren so anxious, Zhao Xin was also confused. Yanren, what's wrong with you? Zhao Xin asked. Your Aunt Zixin is still cleaning. If you have anything to say, sit down and have a cup of tea first, and talk slowly. It's okay, Zhao Xin said. Don't ask why Xianxia and Yanren don't call each other aunt or something like that on weekdays. They are a group of angels and super soldiers who are forever young. Calling them aunt makes them look young, but calling them aunt makes them look a little old. No, this matter is very urgent. Yanren ignored Zhao Xin at all. She was very anxious now. When she thought that Xianxia might be introduced to another female angel by Zixin, and then she would lose such a good future husband, she was anxious. What's the matter? You can't even wait for a little while? Zixin came out of the projection room. She didn't have anything to sort out originally, but now that she heard Yanren was so anxious, she simply threw all the garbage directly to the garbage disposal plant through the micro-wormhole. Aunt Zixin, Yanren saw Zixin and walked over immediately. Aunt Zixin, can you please not introduce a girlfriend to Brother Xianxia, especially not to introduce him to those angel sisters from your angel nebula? Yanren said, and as soon as she said this, Zixin understood what was going on. Brother Xianxia didn't let her introduce him to a girlfriend. Wasn't it because he was afraid that Xianxia would be snatched away by someone else? Did you dislike him before? Why are you so anxious now? Zixin asked. At that time, she saw Yanren and Xianxia sort having a conflict and felt that the two were not suitable, so she arranged for Xianxia to introduce other girlfriends. How come Yanren's attitude has completely changed after only 1 or 2 days? I didn't know the situation at that time. Yanren's face flushed slightly when she said this. Zhao Xin was listening to this, and knowing that this was the time for women to talk in private, she turned around and left the room. Since Zixin was busy now, he had to go to the army to take a look. After all, he was now one of the leaders of the Earth military, and he still had to pay more attention to the situation of the entire army. Zixin glanced at Zhao Xin's back as he left, and then looked back at Yanren. What about now? Although Zixin was an angel, she was also Zhao Xin's wife, so the relationship between Zixin's daughter and her was also very close. If she didn't know the situation, she wouldn't have interfered with Yanren's good things. Yanren also knew this, so even though she was very anxious, she was not angry, and she couldn't blame anyone for this matter. Now, of course I like Brother Tianshan. Yanren's face turned redder, but she still said this even though she was shy. Because she knew that if she didn't make it clear, she was afraid that Zixin would introduce a girlfriend to Tianshan. Okay, I understand. I'll send a message to Mellow Heaven right now, saying that the blind dates I arranged earlier are all cancelled. Zixin smiled, then pointed directly in the air, and a communication screen appeared. She typed in a few lines of code and sent the message directly back to Mellow Heaven. But just as Xiaxin was doing these things, Reina's call came in. Reina? What's the matter with her calling at this time? Xiaxin opened the communication. Xiaxin, Yanren should be with you, right? Reina asked. She's there? I'm here. Yanren came forward. Reina saw Yanren, but her expression was a little embarrassed. Yanren, Xianxia said he wanted to go to Mellow Heaven, and he has already set off. Huh? Yanren's heart skipped a beat. How come it's so fast? It's only been more than 10 minutes since I came here. How come he's already in Mellow Heaven? Yanren felt depressed. Why did Xianxia like angels so much? Did he want to go to Mellow Heaven to find those angel sisters? We don't know the reason either. He just said he wanted to go and see Mellow Heaven when he talked about Mellow Heaven. He also said that his master had lived there for 30,000 years. He wanted to see what kind of environment his master used to live in, Lena explained helplessly. She didn't know the situation either. She just felt that Xianxia was really interested in Mellow Heaven and was a little impatient. Xianxia is my teacher, a former student of Xianji Wang Hexi. He might just want to go and take a look, Xiaxin comforted. Yanren, don't worry. Aunt Xiaxin will take you to Mellow Heaven right now. Let's go find him together, okay? Yes. Chapter 764 Facing Your Inner Feelings. When Xiaxin was about to take Yanren to Mellow Heaven, Xianxia had already come here. At this time, he did not come out from the big insect bridge connecting the Earth and Mellow Heaven, but came directly through the portal opened by magic. Xianxia was on Mars at that time. There was no big insect bridge on Mars that could directly lead to Mellow Heaven, so if Xianxia followed a normal speed, he would definitely return to Earth first and then cross the big insect bridge. But Xianxia knew that if he did this, he would probably meet Yanren at the big insect bridge on Earth. Xianxia did not hate Yanren, after all, she was also the daughter of his father's old acquaintance, and it was not strange for him to call her sister according to seniority. But Xianxia knew Yanren's attitude towards him, and he knew that Du Qiangwei wanted him to be a pair with Yanren. Suddenly, his lifelong event was remembered by so many people, and Xianxia began to think in his heart, if he wanted to find a partner, what kind of person should he choose? At this time, a perfect body suddenly appeared in his mind. That beautiful figure, that seductive curve, made him feel excited. So, Xianxia chose to come over without hesitation. He wanted to meet the woman who had deliberately hidden herself from him. Kesha, I'm already at your house. Don't you plan to come and greet me? Xianxia raised his head and asked at a 45-degree angle looking at the air. Aren't you reuniting with your father's old friends in the region? How come you have time to come to me so soon? Kesha's figure soon came out of the wormhole. After returning to the Mellow Heavenly Court, the King of Gods had now unloaded all the burdens she had in the past, and she became free. In the past few days, she had been in the Mellow Heavenly Court. She wanted to find her old friends to chat, but found that the ones who had the best relationship with her were either dead or had left. Although there were some people left now who she was very familiar with, they were all her subordinates. They only worshipped and respected her, and were not suitable for heart-to-heart talks at all. If she had to chat with them, it would make them feel very uncomfortable. So, Kesha could only go back to where she used to live, to where Hexi lived, and walked aimlessly. Of course, she also has a job now, which is to teach Anisid. But Anisid has been the Angel King for 30 years. Although her strength has not reached a strong enough level, her management ability is very good. Moreover, even if it is a way to improve her strength, Anisid has actually formulated a complete set of plans and processes for herself. She urgently needs to follow the steps in the future. In a few years, she can become an excellent Angel King like Keisha in the past. This Super God universe, this Mellow Heaven, actually makes no difference whether there is her holy Keisha. Such a scene is actually what Keisha wants to see. Her justice order can be passed on well. However, she suddenly became idle, and her life seemed to have lost its goal all of a sudden, and she became a little confused. It's just a tour. 1 or 2 days is enough to see everything, Xianxia said. What about you? I see that your current state seems to be a little different from the beginning, Xianxia asked, and his insightful eyes allowed him to feel that Keisha was a little different from usual. It was strange, he couldn't read the situation of Jezailan and Du Qiangwei at all. Especially Jezailan, he couldn't even see his emotions. But although he couldn't read Keisha's thoughts, he could feel her emotions. In a few decades, could it be that the once strongest king of gods in the super god universe has been surpassed by Jezzailin? However, if you think about it carefully, you can accept it. Jezzailin himself is the strongest super soldier created by the Super God Academy in Mellow Heaven. After combining the Void and the Anti-Void to create the Void Controller, and then upgrading to a stronger Void God, Jezzailin's strength is already unique in the Super God universe. Xianxia is very strong, but in terms of Super God technology alone, he is not as strong as Jezzailin. If the two sides fight, the outcome may be like this. But apart from that, Du Qiangwei and Keisha in front of him are not Xianxia's opponents, because Xianxia has the abilities that the two of them have, and Xianxia also has the abilities that the two of them don't have. I thought my return would bring about a huge change to the universe, or at least have a great impact on the Mellow Celestial Court, but in fact, whether I am in this universe or not, it doesn't really change much. Mellow Celestial Court can still develop well without me. Keisha was somewhat helpless when she said this. It turns out that once an era has passed, it can never come back. Even the strongest person in the previous era is of little significance in the new era. Is it because you have nothing to do, so you feel bored? Xianxia finally knew where Keisha's inexplicable emotions came from. Yes, Keisha sighed. Since you have nothing to do in this universe, do you want to go to the infinite dimensional universe with me? Xianxia got straight to the point and stated the purpose of his trip. Yes, it was very direct. He just fell in love with Keisha and wanted to take her on a trip. They are all super soldiers and gods. The relationship between gods does not need to be dragged out like that. When he was on Mars, when Keisha's appearance appeared in his mind, he knew what he was thinking. This is the first woman who let him see her whole body, and this is the first woman who made him react after seeing her. When you subconsciously feel that person makes your heart beat, don't hesitate, that is definitely the person you like. Since you know you like her, then pursue her and fight for her. If you really can't pursue her or fight for her, at least you have tried. It's nothing more than no results, and you don't have to regret it in the future. Can you take someone else with you on your journey to the dimensional universe? Keisha was a little moved. She had nothing to do in the Super God universe. If she could really go to other worlds, she really wanted to go out and see it. I accidentally brought a group of mechanical life forms from other universes before. According to speculation, regular life forms should be able to do it in the same way. I plan to do some tests later. There should be no problem. The interval between tests is only 2 years. I believe you can endure 2 years of boredom and loneliness, Xianxia said, and the tone of his voice did not regard Keisha as a senior at all, but simply as a person he admired. Chapter 765. Is this development so weird? What you said at this moment, Keisha also realized the specialness of what Xianxia said. I came here today to propose to you, Xianxia directly said his true intention without any concealment. Proposal? So direct, Keisha was surprised. She didn't expect Xianxia to be so direct. You and I are both gods. There is no need to hide our feelings like those ordinary people do, and think about it over and over again, Xianxia said. You should know the relationship between me, your master, and your Aunt Yan. If we are together, wouldn't it be? I have lived for 30,000 years and have traveled through the heavens and the worlds. Do I still need to consider such primitive issues? Xianxia interrupted Keisha. There is really no need to discuss such things, because there is no meaning at all. Staying together for billions of years, wandering in the endless river of time, what you see during this period is the boundless starry sky and the changes in the sea. The meaning of life has long broken through the shackles of traditional concepts. And if you really can't let go, we can also not develop in that direction, just travel together, that's all. Xianxia didn't limit everything to that kind of thing. Compared with the perception of the soul, the physical feeling is not worth mentioning. It's me who is too conservative. At this moment, Keisha realized that in Xianxia's mind, she was just a stubborn and conservative primitive man. Then, do you agree? Xianxia asked again. Yes, Keisha nodded seriously. She has already died once and has lived for 30,000 years. Now she sees a man who is so sincere to her, and she also yearns for the journey of the infinite dimensional universe. Why should she reject this simplest expectation in her heart? Your sister Yanran is here. Keisha raised her head and looked at the location of the Mellow Heavenly Court insect bridge. She is just a little girl who hasn't grown up yet. Xianxia also looked over. What Keisha can see, he can also see. Actually, you can take her in. Keisha's eyes were misty. She used the eye of insight just now. Do you want me to be like my father? Xianxia asked with a smile. No, Keisha looked back at Xianxia and answered with a smile. The two of them just stared at each other and stopped talking. A moment later, Zixin and Yanren came over. Brother Xianxia, Yanren shouted before she arrived. Hearing the shout, Xianxia and Keisha stopped. Yanren, let me introduce you, this is my girlfriend. Xianxia turned around and looked at Yanren, but pointed at Keisha. Huh? Yanren was stunned for a moment. The angel Zixin next to her was also confused at this time. Isn't it so sudden? And, is it so weird? Yanren was completely confused. She couldn't figure out what was going on. Queen Keisha, Angel Zixin was also confused at this time. She came to Keisha's side and looked at her queen with a surprised expression. Well, the development of things is a bit weird, but this is the truth, Keisha nodded. In fact, she herself did not expect it to develop like this. But it all happened, and Keisha herself accepted it. It can only be said that things in this world have always been like this. It always appears inadvertently in a way that everyone thinks is unreasonable, but it is very reasonable. Brother Xianxia, how could you? How can you like this old woman? Yanren was a little out of control for a while, and her immature thoughts were exposed again at this time. Yanren, do you think that for a person with a lifespan of billions of years, 30,000 years old is considered old? Xianxia was not angry, because he knew that this was Yanren's character, and now Xianxia was happy, so he would not care about how crazy a child was in his heart. But, Yanren listened to Xianxia's explanation and didn't know how to answer for a while. It seemed that there was no problem from a literal understanding. In fact, a person who can be popular for billions of years is indeed very young when she is 30,000 years old. But in comparison, I am only in my 20s. Isn't a 20-something younger than 30,000 years old? And Xianxia is only in his 30s now, right? That's 1,000 times different from Keisha. In terms of feelings, there are not so many buts, and there is no need for too many reasons. It's just a simple love, and then pursuit. As long as the other party doesn't hate me, and the other party is willing to be with me, that's enough. Xianxia's idea is very simple, so simple that he doesn't need to consider anything else. But it is this simple thing that is more likely to touch the heart. Yanren couldn't find a reason to refute. She left here crying and ran back to Earth in one breath. Keisha asked Zixin to follow her. After all, at this time, a girl can't be left alone in the universe. If an accident happens accidentally, it will be a big problem. Xianxia and Keisha confirmed their relationship, and the two were together directly. It was very simple and direct. Xianxia lived directly with Keisha and had sex for the first time that night. On the other hand, Yanren ran all the way back to Earth, cried and threw herself into Du Qiangwei's arms, and told everything. When Zixin heard this, he was shocked. But Du Qiangwei just sighed after hearing it. Others don't know the reason, but Du Qiangwei knows it very clearly. What happened between Xianxia and Keisha started from the moment Xianxia crossed into the Super God universe. At that time, Xianxia sensed Keisha's existence and used a simple word to make Keisha give up the idea of death, and directly used his ability to help Keisha recover her body. At that time, Keisha who recovered her body was the most primitive appearance. A young boy who was just beginning to fall in love saw such an appearance and had the same primitive impulse. Keisha realized at that time that Xianxia might be in this situation, so she came to Du Qiangwei for her help to solve it. But she didn't expect that the matter would eventually develop to this point. Moreover, Keisha actually accepted Xianxia's pursuit. Qiangwei, do you know something? Zixin may not have a very high emotional intelligence, but his current ability is definitely enough. Therefore, he can easily see the changes in Du Qiangwei's emotions. So, Xianxia directly told Zixin the whole story, and naturally Yanren and Xianxi's Hexen also knew the whole situation. That won't work. How can we make such a hasty decision on matters of love? Zixin stood up. It was not that he was stubborn, but this matter concerned Xianxia's lifelong event. As Li Qingyun's student, he had to be cautious. Chapter 766 This news is too explosive. The matter between Xianxia and Keisha made Zixin nervous immediately. He was Li Qingyun's student. Li Qingyun had devoted all his efforts to train him to become the main god of the earth. It was also because of Li Qingyun that he could become the strongest person in the Super God universe. Therefore, he could not ignore this matter. However, when Zixin wanted to go directly to Xianxia, Du Qiangwei stopped him. If nothing else, just because of Jezailen's current state, if he directly opposed Xianxia and Keisha being together, it would be very likely to cause a conflict. Du Qiangwei suggested that Jezailen should find a way to notify Li Qingyun, because it would be most appropriate if the matter was decided by the parents of the parties involved. Contact Xianxia's father? Isn't he in another universe? Can your father do this kind of thing? Jie Yanran, who was standing aside, couldn't help but become curious when she heard Du Qiangwei's persuasion of Jezailen. If it is another world, your father has no way, but the way to contact your Uncle Li, your father has actually mastered it over the years, Du Qiangwei answered. And the fact is just as Du Qiangwei said, Jezailen has mastered the method of contacting the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In fact, a large part of the credit for this method comes from the Space Principal. When Li Qingyun came back from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it was the Space Principal who guided Li Qingyun. Later, after the two came over, the Space Principal basically fell silent, because his mind had been completely integrated into a higher dimension and he could no longer return to reality. In the past, when Li Qingyun was here, he could naturally contact the Space Principal, but after Li Qingyun left, no one had this ability. In the past 30 years, with a continuous improvement of Jezailen's strength, coupled with his status as the power of the galaxy, he was the most outstanding work of the Space Principal, so even if the Space Principal entered a higher dimension, he always paid attention to him. Therefore, in the process of Jezailen's research on the void, he also came into contact with the Space Principal, and then the two further discussed many technologies. The latest technology involved the method of communicating with the dimensional universe. Of course, this method is also limited to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because only that universe was accidentally opened by the Space Principal and Li Qingyun, and a world connected to each other was created. Qiangwei is right. This matter can only be handled by Commander Li. I am also obliged to tell him about this situation, Jezailen said, then he spread his black wings and flew out of the house. He entered the space and then stepped directly into the mezzanine of a higher dimension. Through communication with the principal of the space, and then using the principal's thoughts as a bridge, a communication bridge was built to communicate directly with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. After this communication bridge was established, Jezailen passed his thoughts through this communication bridge. At this moment, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Li Qingyun was holding a little guy and teasing him constantly. This little guy looks a little special. Although his whole body is the same as that of an ordinary human child, there is a small tuft of pink and blue feathers behind his arms. That's right. This little guy is the child of Zhao King and Xiaolin. During the 10 years that Xianxia went to the infinite dimensional universe for training, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been calm. When people are free, they will start to think about love affairs, and Zhao King and Xiaolin already have a foundation for love. So, naturally, they got married and had children during these 10 years. It is said that people tend to develop a relationship with grandchildren. Li Qingyun naturally likes this first grandson very much. He always likes to hold him and play with him when he has nothing to do. But today, when he was having fun, a message suddenly appeared in his mind. Commander-in-Chief, I am Xiaolin. Xianxia has some problems with me. He wants to be with Keisha. I don't know how to deal with this matter. Can you please come to the Super God universe and deal with it in person? The message from Jezailen was very short, but it also explained the situation there in detail. Xianxia is in the Super God universe? And he is with Keisha. Li Qingyun was stunned. He did not doubt Jezailen's information, because the moment the information came in, he felt a breath of the Space Principal. Since the Space Principal was involved, it was not surprising that Jezailen could pass this message over. So, the key now is the matter of Xianxia and Keisha being together. No, don't you know that my sisters and Keisha's are husband and wife? Li Qingyun was really speechless. How could Xianxia like Keisha? Isn't this going to mess up the generations? Hila, come here for a moment. I have something to discuss with you. Li Qingyun raised his head and looked up. His words were transmitted to Asgard through the endless starry sky. Hila's son left, and Li Qingyun was the only enemy left on Earth. So on weekdays, apart from coming back to find him, he didn't have much time to be here. Now Li Qingyun suddenly came to find her, and used such a tone, it seemed like there was something serious. So, Hila didn't hesitate and directly opened the rainbow bridge to teleport over. What happened that made you look for me so seriously? Hila asked. Li Qingyun scratched his head awkwardly when he heard this. As for the child in his arms, He naturally returned it to the child's biological father, Zhao King. In fact, Li Qingyun was not serious when he came to her before. Every time he flirted with her, he was really serious this time. "It's Xianxia, our eldest son," Li Qingyun said. Zhao King, who was holding her son and wanted to leave quickly to avoid embarrassment, stopped immediately. "Brother? What's wrong with you?" Zhao King hadn't heard about Xianxia for a long time. Now she heard her father mention Xianxia and asked immediately. "Tell me, what happened?" Hila was also anxious. After 10 years, she finally heard the news about her son. She was very anxious. "Xianxia went to the Super God universe and fell in love there," Li Qingyun said helplessly. "Falling in love? This is a good thing. Why do you look so strange?" Hila was originally very anxious, but when she heard what Li Qingyun said, her anxiety disappeared and she was only happy. Her son found a girlfriend. Maybe she would be able to hold a little grandson like Wanda in the near future. How could she not be happy? The problem is, he likes Liang Bing's sister, huh? When Li Qingyun said this, both Hila and Zhao King were stunned. Chapter 767 Those Who Stayed Behind. The message from the Super God universe said why Xianxia hasn't come back in 10 years. It turns out it's because of this. At this moment, a group of people were gathered in the garden. Zai listened to what Li Qingyun said and gave his own analysis. Xiaolun's well-intentioned reminder has pushed the timeline back 8 years. It is precisely because of this message that Xianxia, who could have gone back 8 years ago, can only go back to the present time period even if he comes back now. Li Qingyun also nodded in approval of Zai's statement. According to Li Qingyun's analysis of the situation when he went to the Super God universe, after traveling in the dimension, he can go back directly to 2 years after leaving. In other words, no matter how many years Xianxia has been outside, he can only come back 2 years later here. Their relatives here can see Xianxia every 2 years and reunite with him for a period of time. But now, this message from Xiaolun has fixed the timeline of the past. Because, with this information, it is confirmed that Xianxia will never come back in the past 10 years, and even if Xianxia comes back in other dimensions, he can't return to any time period in the past 10 years. So, it is this guy named Xiaolun that caused me not to see my son for 10 years. Hila was a little angry. She could see her son every 2 years, but now she can't see him for 10 years. How can she not be angry as a mother? You can't say that. Qilin also spoke at this time. Originally, our relatives in the Super God universe could see us every 2 years, because we can go back in the same way, but Xianxia's time travel happened to be 30 years later. Can't we go back to any time period in the past 30 years now? Qilin has grown up now. After all, she is one of the 4 mistresses of the Super God civilization. How could she fall behind others? I can only say that all of this is destined. It's also our fault. We used to think that no matter how many years we don't go back, we can go back to 2 years after we left, so we never took action. Zai's attitude towards this was very indifferent. She has no desires and can always live with the person she likes. This life is what she likes most. Therefore, no matter what she faces now, she will face it with optimism. It doesn't make much sense to discuss these past events. The key now is that the matter between Xianxia and Queen Kesha is more important, Yan said. That was her teacher, the Queen Kesha she respected the most. Now she is paired with her stepson, adopted son, or son? Anyway, I don't understand. Yan was so anxious. It's useless to say anything. Let's just go there. Li Qingyun had already made up his mind. His son was going to fall in love with Kesha in the Super God universe. How could he, as a father, not take care of it? It's just that we can't all go this time. We have to discuss leaving some people here to look after the house, Li Qingyun said. In his heart, he actually had a candidate to stay behind, but this candidate had to be agreed by one person. Dad, let me stay. Zhao King stood up. Li Qingyun's second son, he usually does not behave very maturely, but in fact he knows his father's thoughts very well. Although everything in the current Super God civilization has been put on the right track, the entire civilization has only left a small number of people. The departure of Li Qingyun, the main god, for 1 or 2 years will not have much impact. But the person who stays to take charge must have enough weight and strength. The best candidate is actually Sun Wukong. After all, this is the temporary person in charge of the Super God civilization that has been decided many years ago. As long as Li Qingyun has something to leave, he will directly replace Li Qingyun to manage the entire super god civilization. But this time, they are going back to the super god universe and the hometown of the super warriors. Everyone else has gone back, but it is not appropriate to let Sun Wukong stay. The rest, such as Xianji King Hexi, Xianqi King Liangbing, Angel Yan and Qilin are all the same. They must also hope to go back with Li Qingyun this time. Therefore, in this case, most of the people who came from the super god universe should not be considered. In addition, there must be 2 or 3 people in the super god universe who will not leave, and the god of death Karl must be among them. The strength of the god of death Karl is the best in the entire super god civilization. No one can surpass him except Li Qingyun and Hezai. Hezai has mastered the cosmic membrane and other technologies, so he has surpassed the god of death Karl to a certain extent. If there is only the god of death Karl, most people in the Marvel Cinematic Universe will not trust him. In this case, a person who can convince both sides is needed, so the most suitable candidate is naturally someone with both backgrounds. There was only Li Qingyun in the super god civilization before, but now there are more people, that is, Li Qingyun's children. If Xianxia is there, it must be Xianxia who is the person in charge. If Xianxia is not there, Zhaoqing and Xiaoyan will be the substitutes, and Xiaoyan's personality is not suitable for being the person in charge, so only Zhaoqing will be left. As for the children of Qilin and Angel Yan, they are now adults, but they are still inexperienced and lack ability, so they are naturally not suitable. Well, it is most suitable for you to stay. Seeing Zhaoqing stand up by herself, Li Qingyun was very relieved. Since Zhaoqing is staying, I will stay too, Wanda spoke. Xiao Mumu was just born a few months ago and needs someone to take care of him. As a grandmother, I can't bear to be separated from him. Wanda's reason for staying is simple, and there is no way to refute it. If Zhaoqing stays, his wife and children will naturally stay too. As a grandmother, it is human nature for Wanda to be reluctant to let her grandson stay. Who can say anything? Okay, then this time Zhaoqing will be responsible for staying behind in the super god civilization, and Karl, King Devourer, Thor, Stark and others will stay here to assist. Hela and the others who originally came from the super god universe, we will return to the super god universe together. Li Qingyun determined the final candidate. Let Zhaoqing stay to supervise the country, with Wanda, the mistress, supporting behind the scenes, and Li Qingyun directly named the god of death Karl, King Devourer, Thor, and Stark as assistants. Then the super god civilization will definitely not be in chaos in a short time. Moreover, this time Li Qingyun went to the super god universe, he would definitely come back within 2 years, and the travel between the 2 dimensions in the future would be locked within this 2-year period. Because only in this way would there not be a situation like this time where one division lasted for 10 or 30 years. Chapter 768, My Old Father's Heart. On the day of departure for the super god universe, all the people who were going there had been received by Li Qingyun in his small world. At this moment, Li Qingyun was standing alone with Zhaoqing. Zhaoqing, I trust your ability, but there are still many people stronger than you in the Marvel Universe, and it is unknown whether anyone will be restless when I am not here, so, I will give you the highest authority over all celestial computers in the super god civilization, and you can take them all back at the critical moment. Also, if there is really a problem and you don't know how to deal with it, find the goddess of death, she will help you. Li Qingyun said the last sentence in a voice that only Zhaoqing could hear. In the past 20 years, the goddess of death has really not been as frivolous as she was in the past. Therefore, although Li Qingyun has not really forgiven her past absurd actions, he can already accept her existence. Moreover, Li Qingyun also believes that if something really happens after he is gone, the goddess of death will definitely be willing to help with her affection for him. I know, Father, Zhaoqing nodded very solemnly. Li Qingyun's exhortations and instructions were the same as Li Qingyun's attitude towards Xianxia when he was about to leave. Zhaoqing saw her father like this and felt that Li Qingyun really treated them all equally and did not favor anyone. At least, he was not too partial. Also, keep an eye on Xiaoyan. Li Qingyun's tone suddenly changed. This stinky girl, I asked her to go to the super god universe with us so that she could see the difference in the universe over there and get to know the relatives and friends over there, but she refused to follow. I see that she seems to have some spring feelings. You keep an eye on her. If that guy is not reliable, you must not allow them to be together. Speaking of his eldest daughter, Li Qingyun was also extremely depressed at this time. Sons are easy to discipline. The older they get, the more obedient they are, because sons can understand their fathers when they grow up. But daughters are different. The older they get, the more disobedient they become, especially Xiaoyan. She used to be a sweetheart. She would stick to her father whenever she had nothing to do, and act like a spoiled child from time to time. Now, she is not seen all day long, and no one knows where she went to play. Xiaoyan, she actually knows her limits. Zhao Qing's expression became a little embarrassed when she saw Li Qingyun like this. At the beginning, the three siblings were together in the multiverse. At that time, they were together all day long, not to mention how happy they were. But later, the sudden appearance of Infinity caused Xianxia to join Infinity's dimensional travel plan. Xianxia left, leaving Zhao Qing and Xiaoyan alone. They could no longer experience the multiverse like before, and Zhao Qing and Xiaoyan were in love. The relationship between the two became closer and closer, and finally they got married and started a family. Xiaoyan was completely left alone. It was natural for Xiaoyan, who had nothing to do all day, to start to have amorous feelings. However, Li Qingyun, an old father, didn't care about his son finding a partner at all, but he was really anxious for his daughter to find a partner. He wanted to watch him 24 hours a day. And all the yellow-haired people within 1 light year of the Earth had to be kicked out of the Milky Way by him. I know you have always protected her, but this is a lifelong event. Girls must be cautious when choosing a partner. You must keep a close eye on her, otherwise, when I come back and find out that there is something wrong, I will not only punish Xiaoyan, but also you, Li Qingyun said. Zhao Qing looked at Li Qingyun and could only nod. At the same time, the dimensional channel has appeared. As a person who possesses the power of both the Super Gods universe and the Marvel universe, Li Qingyun will not encounter too many obstacles when crossing these two worlds. However, this is limited to between these two worlds. To wantonly cross the infinite dimensional universe, only Xianxia can do it at present, because Xianxia is truly chosen by the most powerful forces in the two worlds. Infinite divine power, Li Qingyun's power, and Super God technology are all gathered in Xianxia, so he can achieve that level. I'm leaving, take care of yourself, Li Qingyun urged. Don't worry, father, I will take care of myself, my mother and sister, and the entire Super God civilization, Zhao Qing replied. Yet, Li Qingyun nodded, and then turned around and entered the dimensional passage. It was not until this dimensional passage completely disappeared and it was confirmed that even if Li Qingyun came back, it would take 2 years, that Xiaoyan's figure came out of the hidden space. Huh? Dad finally left. Xiaoyan sighed. With Dad's ability, do you think he can't see your little trick of hiding? Zhao Qing looked at Xiaoyan, and the expression on his face was very helpless. What if he knows? If he dares to expose me, I will really leave immediately. Xiaoyan is still the willful girl. Even though she is actually more than 30 years old, she is a child of her parents, and her appearance will never change. Why should her thoughts change so quickly? Tell my second brother, who is the boy you like? Zhao Qing asked. He dared not forget what Li Qingyun told him. No, I haven't even started dating him yet. If I wait for you to draw that stroke, won't it be too late? Don't worry, sister, if I really get together with that guy, I will definitely inform you as soon as possible, then we have a deal. We must do what we say, otherwise I will never let you go. Got it, got it. The brother and sister left the space and returned to Earth while talking. At the same time, in the Super God universe, Xianxia was flying out of the mellow heavenly palace. The energy in his body made him feel a little bit of movement. This kind of movement was not a warning of danger, but a power with the same origin as him approaching this dimension. What's wrong? Keisha followed him out. She had been with Xianxia for a few days, but she had never seen Xianxia behave so strangely. There's trouble coming, Xianxia replied with a frown. Trouble? In this Super God universe, what kind of trouble do you need to care so much about? Keisha felt even more strange. With Xianxia's strength, even if Jezzailin came, he might not be able to defeat him. Who else could threaten him? Even if Jezzailin and Dukayangwei attacked together, although Keisha was behind in technology, she still had the authority to use the sacred knowledge treasury and the king's arsenal, so she would not be afraid of fighting. So, where could the trouble come from? Unless, if you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 769, Husband's Family, Wife's Family, and Everyone Else's Family. In the Super God universe, no one can cause trouble to Sciantia and Kesha. But outside the Super God universe, there is a group of people who can. At this moment, when Kesha was persuading Sciantia, a space channel suddenly appeared in space. This is not an ordinary space wormhole. Kesha couldn't see it, but Sciantia, who has the most special ability to travel through dimensions, could see it. I'm afraid, my parents are here, Sciantia murmured. Hearing this, Kesha's expression changed immediately. This 30,000-year-old cow ate Sciantia's 30-year-old tender grass. How could her parents rush over to give her a good face? In the dimensional channel, Li Qingyun's figure slowly walked out. The moment he appeared, the entire Super God universe shook. The person who once stood at the top of this universe came back after leaving for many years, and now he is much stronger than when he left. Seeing that it was really Li Qingyun who came out of the dimensional channel, Kesha's face became even uglier, and Sciantia was also worried and flew forward quickly. Li Qingyun came out of the dimensional channel and looked at Sciantia and Kesha at this time. He didn't know whether he was angry or helpless. He didn't know what to say for a while. However, before he could do anything, a figure flew out of his body. That was Hila, Sciantia's biological mother, who had been separated from Sciantia for more than 10 years. During the multiverse, the relationship between Sciantia and Hila was not as strict as when they were young. Now that Sciantia has left the Marvel Universe and has been gone for 10 years, her mother's heart is naturally closer to her son. Now that she finally saw him, she naturally wanted to hug her son well, and she also saw that if she didn't come out, Li Qingyun would probably scold her son. Sciantia had originally prepared to endure his father's scolding, but suddenly saw his mother rushing out and hugging him. Sciantia was a little confused for a while. After that, a large group of people began to appear one after another. Hexi, the king of Xianji, Liangbing, the king of Xianqi, Qilin, the angel Yan, Sun Wukong, the fighting Buddha, Liu Chuang, the victory of Nuozing. Most of the people who followed Li Qingyun to the Marvel Universe have now returned. Kesha knew that Li Qingyun took those people away, so she could tell who was missing when he came back. The two death gods Karl and Kesha did not come back, and the reason why they did not come back was easy to understand. Almost everyone in the Super God universe thought that the two of them were villains, the culprits and accomplices who had tried to destroy the Super God universe. Moreover, unlike Morgana, the Demon King, who has a demon civilization here, the Dark Nebula of the Death God Karl has long been subverted and is now taken over by the demon civilization. There is no point in the Death God Karl and Kesha coming back, so it is better to just stay there. Queen Kesha, the angels Yan, Leng, Zhu, Yunnan and Fangxing all came to Kesha at this time. Although they have lived in the Marvel Cinematic Universe for more than 30 years, they were also Kesha's subordinates for thousands of years, so they still respect Kesha. Queen Kesha, Hizai also came to Kesha, but her words were not as respectful as others, but rather a casual greeting like old friends meeting. Moreover, Hizai felt a little weird when facing Kesha at this time. Yes. How could Hizai not feel weird when she was with her son, a former good sister? You have made a lot of progress. You actually went to date a little kid after not seeing him for decades. Don't you know that we are all his mothers? Liangbing's attitude was not good at this time, and there was a little resentment in her tone of voice. What do you mean by this? Are you also with Li Qingyun? Kesha's words were hesitant. Li Qingyun and Hizai were together. Kesha had been mentally prepared for this. After all, this was already about to come out when Li Qingyun and Hizai left 30 years ago. But Li Qingyun and Liangbing, these two people, had no signs at all. How come they joined in after not seeing each other for 30 years? Kesha, 30 years is enough to change a lot of things, Hizai said. She was actually quite embarrassed now. After 30 years of absence, she came back to meet in this way. But these things still have to be said out. Only by saying it out can they be truly dealt with, right? Yes, that makes sense, Kesha nodded. She is no longer the same person she used to be, so it is not surprising that Liangbing is like this now. Sciantia, come back to Earth with me first, Li Qingyun spoke, without much content, just said to go back to Earth first. After all, he had stayed here for more than 10 years and helped the Earth develop there. Now that he is back, he must live there, and Liu Chuang and others must go back to see their former brothers and sisters. Yes, father, Sciantia did not refuse. He also knew Li Qingyun's situation and how good Li Qingyun's relationship was with those people there. After all, Xianxia lived there when he first came, and Jezailan and everyone else were very enthusiastic about him, and they were kind to him from the bottom of their hearts. So, the large army began to set off towards the earth. Of course, Angel Yan and other angels stayed behind. After all, this is already the Taoist home, and it would be inappropriate not to go home and sit and reunite with the family. When Li Qingyun and his friends returned to the earth, Jezailan and all the people from the Xiaongbing company came out to greet them. Moreover, as soon as they saw Liu Chuang and his friends, a large group of people began to hug each other and ask about their well-being. 30 years may not be a very long time for the angels in the mellow heavenly court. After all, some of them have lived for 30,000 years. But for these super warriors in the mellow heavenly court, it is really a long time. After all, they are only in their 50s or 60s now, and leaving for 30 years at once is equivalent to being separated for half a lifetime. When Li Qingyun returned here, he forgot to care about what Xianxia had done for a while, and celebrated with Jezailan and his friends. They even held a big banquet, and the entire Black Great Wall, as well as the people of the Denner civilization and the Liang civilization participated in the celebration for a whole day. During this time, the younger generation stayed alone. They were not familiar with each other, and they did not have such deep feelings for each other, so they naturally did not understand the joy of reunion. They just sat aside, eating and drinking. Chapter 770 Reunion. Sister, why do you look so unhappy? At the banquet, Jie Yanren was poking the meat in the bowl with chopsticks in a depressed mood. A teenager opposite her watched for more than 10 minutes and finally couldn't help asking. The boyfriend you like has found an old woman who is more than 30,000 years old as his girlfriend. If it were you, would you be happy? Yanren didn't say anything, but a boy next to her spoke. Ah. Sister, do you like my elder brother? The teenager opposite was a little surprised. Yes, this is Killin's child, Li Lin. More than 10 years have passed, and Killin's child is now in his early 20s, and even Angel Yan's daughter has grown up. It's just that Angel Yan returned to Mellow Heaven, and her daughter Li Yunshu naturally stayed with her in Mellow Heaven. Also staying there are Angel Fangxing and Liu Chuang's daughter Liu Zhi. As for Sun Wukong and Su Xiaoli's daughter, she is only 7 years old now, and Sun Wukong and Su Xiaoli are both on Earth, so they must have come back with her. The couples who followed Li Qingyun to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and are currently married are Liu Chuang and Angel Fangxing, and Sun Wukong and Su Xiaoli. In the second generation, in addition to Xianxia, Zhaoqing, and Xiaoyan, the 3 children born to Li Qingyun, Wanda, and Hela in the early days, Angel Yan and Qilin also gave birth to a child each, namely Li Lin in front of us and Li Yunshu, who stayed in Mellow Heaven with Angel Yan. These 2 children grew up with the love of thousands of people. Many people who followed in the Super God universe are all looking after them. Then Sun Wukong and Liu Chuang also have 2 children, Sun Rong and Liu Zhi. There are also several second generations in the Super God universe. The oldest is naturally Jie Yanren, the daughter of Jezailan and Duqiangwei. Then Zhao Zhichan, the child of Zhao Xin and Zhexin, is the boy sitting next to Yanren. He also has a close friend, Cheng Haochuan, the child of Cheng Yaowan and Rina. Unlike most other people who only have one child, Cheng Yaowan and Rina have several. Cheng Haochuan is the eldest son, and the following are Cheng Haos, Cheng Kilbei, and Cheng Yu. The youngest Cheng Yu is not even 4 years old yet. Why did Cheng Yaowan and Rina have so many children? That is naturally because there are too few descendants of the 2 civilizations, Denner and Liang, and they encourage childbirth. As the 2 main gods, they have to take the lead. Moreover, Cheng Yaowan and Rina were both very lonely when they were young. Because of their background and experience, they did not want their children to be alone, so they had more children to keep each other company. Now, all these children are sitting together, around a table. Except for Li Xianxia. Li Xianxia is now with Li Qingyun. As the crown prince appointed by the Super God civilization, Li Qingyun no longer regards him as a young man like Li Lin. Therefore, Xianxia was arranged by Li Qingyun to sit at his own table, and those who can sit here are all of extremely high status in the universes of both sides. Li Qingyun, Jezailan, Duqiangwei, Sun Wukong, Cheng Yaowan, Lina, Zhao Xin, Liu Chuang, Lian Fin. Even Qilin and Su Xiaoli were not with their husbands at this time, but sat next to them with other soldiers of the Xiaongbing company. This group of people are all people with extremely high status on Earth now or in the past, and they hold real power. Xianxia, as a second generation, was singled out to sit here, which is enough to show that Li Qingyun attaches great importance to him. Xiaolin, your current strength is very good, it has reached a cosmic level. Li Qingyun looked at Xiaolin and was very satisfied with his growth. Li Qingyun grew to this level by combining the power of the two worlds in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like Sun Wukong and Liu Trang, Li Qingyun strengthened them, and in addition to the super god technology, he also gave them the power of the Marvel Universe, so they could reach the cosmic level. And now, Xiaolin has developed to this level simply by using the technological capabilities of the super god universe, which shows how rapidly Xiaolin has developed in the past 30 years. I'm not very clear about what the concept of cosmic level is. I just try my best to further strengthen my ability, Xiaolin said. He was indeed just developing himself and fully tapping his potential. 30 years is already very good for super god technology to be able to develop to this point. It is not easy to continue to innovate. Well, the power of the galaxy was originally created by the principle of the space and many predecessors of the super god academy with a culmination of cosmic technology. Its potential can be said to be very huge. In just 30 years, you can simply develop it. It is also very remarkable. Li Qingyun nodded, but his words were still so admiring. Xiaolin, your brother has given birth to a son now, and his talent is also very good. You are faster than me, so you should have children too, right? Liu Chuang suddenly asked. What kind of technology? They will have plenty of time to talk about it in the future. Today, they come back to focus on a reunion and gathering. Brother Trang, you are married too? Who is your wife? Zhao Xin also got excited when he heard Liu Chuang talking about his wife and children. Zhao Xin married the angel Zixin, and he was very proud. My wife is the angel Fangxing, how about that? Not bad. Liu Chuang was also very proud. Not bad, Chuangzi, I didn't expect you to marry an angel wife. Zhao Xin really appreciated it. The brothers all had such good taste, and they merit either gods or angels. Xiaolin, you haven't answered me yet. You and Qiang Wei must be together, and the son must be born, right? Liu Chuang was as rude as ever. I don't have a son, only a daughter, named Yanran. Xiaolin scratched his head. Yanran. What a good name. Which one is it? Liu Chuang turned his head and looked at the table of children. Then he saw Jie Yanran at a glance. Why does this child seem unhappy? Liu Chuang is now a person with a sacred body. Just say whether Li Qingyun is good enough to his brothers, and directly gave him the highest configuration he could give, and the observation ability of this eye of insight is also very outstanding. Yanran, Xiaolin also glanced at his daughter. Thinking of the scene when she came back to quarrel with him after she found out about Xianxia and Keisha, Xiaolin naturally knew how his daughter felt at the moment. It would be hard for anyone to feel uncomfortable if the person they liked didn't like them. I'm sorry, Uncle Jet. Xianxia also knew what was going on with Jie Yanran, and he apologized with some guilt. Chapter 771 Father and son are different from you. You can't force feelings. You and Yanran are just not meant to be together. Xiaolin is not the kind of person who likes to force others. He knows what it means to do to others what you don't want others to do to you. The reason why he told Li Qingyun about Xianxia and Keisha's relationship was because there was a huge difference in age and seniority between Xianxia and Keisha. Xiaolin was afraid that if he didn't do it, Xianxia would be harmed. He only felt regretful that his daughter couldn't be with Xianxia. It was a pity that his daughter didn't have that blessing. But he didn't feel resentful because Xianxia didn't like his daughter. From what you said, your daughter likes this boy. Li Qingyun looked at Jie Yanran carefully at this moment. From the perspective of appearance alone, Jie Yanran is absolutely outstanding. Her appearance is more beautiful than her mother Qiang Wei, and her personality has some of Xiaolin's kindness and gentleness. It's just that her original personality was a little arrogant, but that was caused by the environment after birth, not Jie Yanran's nature. Moreover, after knowing Xianxia's true identity and Xianxia's ability, Jie Yanran's attitude immediately changed. Not only did she prepare a sumptuous breakfast for Xianxia, but she also followed him all the way and tried to please him as much as possible, so as to get closer to Xianxia. Unfortunately, Xianxia had already seen Keisha early on, and then she imprinted Keisha in her heart and regarded her as a very important existence. So that no matter what Jie Yanran did later, she could not change Xianxia's mind. Don't ask why Li Qingyun could know all this with just one look. He has the eye of insight, and a person with a higher level divine body than the sacred body and whose strength is much higher than Jezzailin and others. It is not easy for him to look at the data of a third-generation super soldier. Yes, Yanran likes Xianxia very much. For this reason, she has been unhappy these days and has no appetite for tea and food. Before Jezzailin could say anything, he was snatched away by Du Qiangwei on the side. Jezzailin likes to do things as fate would have it, and thinks that it's okay if his daughter is not blessed. But Du Qiangwei doesn't want to miss such a good son-in-law, and she wants to fight for it. Moreover, this is also Yanran's intention. Yanran really likes Xianxia, and has even determined that no one else can be worthy of her except Xianxia. In the past, Du Qiangwei didn't understand why Qilin, Xianxia Yan and Xianji Wang Hexi were willing to be with Li Qingyun. But now, seeing her daughter like this, she slowly understood. Because, in the eyes of these people, no one else is worthy of them. And those who can be worthy of them, although there are people to share with her, for them with infinite lifespan, how much time can these one or two more people share with them? Mortals live no more than 100 years, 20 years old when young and 20 years old when old, and only 60 years left in between. Even if there is no difference in the middle, they are all together for only 60 years. One more person will take away half of it, and 60 years will become 30 years, and one more time will be even less. But for people like them, there is no such math problem. Because half of infinity is also infinity. Since they are both infinity, how much difference is there? What's more, they are all super soldiers and gods. The situation that ordinary people can't keep up and can't take care of them doesn't exist at all. Meeting someone they like and finding someone who is worthy of them is more important to them than anything else. This is why, in the comics, Angel Yan teased Jezzailin even though he knew that Jezzailin liked Du Qiangwei. At that time, Du Qiangwei was just a little bit better than ordinary people in Angel Yan's eyes, and she would completely rot in less than 1,000 years. By then, she can still be with Jezzailin, and they can still fly together in the infinite years to come. It's just that Li Qingyun's crossing caused many situations to happen, and then Angel Yan's object changed from Jezzailin to Li Qingyun. But the situation is similar. They are all gods. In order to pursue the love in their hearts, everything else doesn't matter. Mortals are afraid of wasting youth, but gods don't have the concept of youth, so they are naturally not afraid of wasting time. In Du Qiangwei's view, rather than watching his daughter unhappy for the rest of her life, it would be better to let her try harder now. If she succeeds, wouldn't that be a good ending? Xianxia, your sister Yanran loves you so much, how can you ignore her? Li Qingyun looked at Xianxia and said in a slightly questioning tone. You can't force feelings. Xianxia only replied with these 8 words, but the meaning was very clear. Even if you already have someone you like, father, I am different from you, Xianxia interrupted Li Qingyun directly. The way of life between my mother, Aunt Wanda and you is not what I like, and I don't plan to enjoy life quietly with you in the future. What I need is to find a like-minded person with the same ideas to accompany me to the infinite dimensional universe. Xianxia spoke his true thoughts, even though he knew that what he said might make Li Qingyun dislike it. You want to take Kesha to the infinite dimensional universe? But you should know that the dimensional shuttle ability that infinity and I have given you can only be used by you alone. You can't take anyone to travel through the infinite dimensional universe together. Li Qingyun was a little surprised. He didn't expect that Xianxia's real thoughts were like this. At the beginning, it might be true, but as I walked through multiple dimensional universes, the situation changed. After Xianxia finished speaking, he pointed his finger at the open space in front of him, and several Autobots were teleported out of thin air. After Jazz, Ironhide and others came out, they looked at the scene in front of them and felt confused. Most of the other people present had the same doubts when they saw the Autobots appear, but only Li Qingyun stood up directly. Others didn't know what these Transformers were, and they might just think they were just some robots. After all, with the ability of Super God technology, it is not difficult to create similar mechas, and they can even be more outstanding in performance configuration and more powerful. But Li Qingyun knew that these were all from the Transformers world. These are real Autobots, mechanical life forms with independent life. Father, if I can bring the Autobots out of the Transformers world, then taking Kesha to other worlds may be successful, Xianxia said seriously. Chapter 772 It's all Mom's fault. She was too strict with me when I was a kid. Dad, I know you came here to confront me, But I have my own ideas in my heart, and I hope you won't force me. Xianxia usually doesn't call him dad, because he is used to calling him father. This more formal and more ancient Eastern way of calling is more in line with their identities in the super god civilization. But now that he calls him that, it is simply putting aside the relationship between the two as the main god and the crown prince of the super god civilization, and it is simply a conversation between father and son. I don't want to interfere with your choice of girlfriend, but your choice is a bit too outrageous. Li Qingyun is also helpless. He is also a time traveler, and he is more shameless than Xianxia, who was born and raised in this place. No matter what your identity or background is, as long as you like it, you will marry it. Just look at the large group of women around him now, and you will know that Li Qingyun is not the kind of stubborn person who values background. But Xianxia likes someone else this time, but Xianxia Yan's teacher, He Zai's best friend, and Liang Bing's sister. If he doesn't take care of this matter, then the backup will be completely messed up. It's not possible to make it awkward every time they meet in the future. How helpless. Is there anything wrong with this? Xianxia asked back. I'm not the daughter of Aunt Liang Bing, so there is no blood relationship. Besides, Keisha has already died once, and now she is resurrected. In addition, the two have been mortal enemies for more than 10,000 years, so how can we talk about sisterhood? This kind of thing is just a personal feeling, and it has no actual impact. Xianxia really didn't think it was a big deal. There is no blood relationship, but it's not nice to say it out loud. Li Qingyun is really embarrassed now. There's nothing to be embarrassed about, Xianxia said, but he actually had another thought in his heart. You married so many people of different generations at once. You are not embarrassed. Why should I be embarrassed? Alice, I can't argue with you. Let your mother handle this matter. Li Qingyun was helpless. He didn't know how to argue with Xianxia now, so he simply handed the matter over to Hila. Hila was still with Qilin at this time. Qilin, the mistress of the super god civilization, did not sit at the main table when she returned to the super god universe, so Hila also sat with her at the table next to her. Now, Li Qingyun threw the question to herself, and Hila naturally knew it, but she could not give an answer at this time, because whether she agreed or disagreed, it would hurt the other person if she said it in front of so many people. So, she had to pretend not to hear it, and put this matter aside until later, and it would not be too late for them to discuss it slowly in private. Li Qingyun and Xianxia, the father and son, both understood Hila's thoughts, so they didn't say anything. Let the life form travel with you. This matter cannot be decided rashly. I think you should do some tests first and see what the results are before making a decision. Li Qingyun sat back in his original position and talked to Xianxia. Well, I think so too. As long as the time to travel is up, I will immediately take someone with me to see if I can successfully take him through the dimensional universe together. Xianxia nodded and said. Well, sure. Li Qingyun also nodded. This is actually a final decision. Temporarily postponing this matter. 2 years. See if Xianxia and Keisha can keep their original intentions in these 2 years. Then, Xianxia will go to other dimensional universes for experiments, and it will take 2 years before he can come back. During the 2 years of separation, Xianxia may encounter other things and may be able to solve this matter. Xianxia naturally understands his father's thoughts, but he believes that he will never change easily, so he doesn't care about it at all. In the following time, everyone knew it well, so no one talked much. Everyone sat quietly and started eating. It's just that this food, no matter how delicious it was originally, has no taste now. After a banquet, Xianxia returned to the villa that Jezaiatlin had originally arranged for him, and Li Qingyun returned to her original home with Qilin. Although Qilin's parents are no longer there after 30 years, there are other relatives in the family, so Qilin still has to go back there to reunite with them. At this time, Xianxia was not alone. Hila followed him back to the villa here, obviously wanting to live here with Xianxia. Without outsiders, even Li Qingyun was gone. The mother and son could finally sit down and talk about what happened this time. Xianxia, tell mom what you really think, Hila asked. Before she started to persuade Xianxia, she had to know what her son really thought. I fell in love with Keisha at first sight, and we were in love afterwards, so I wanted to explore the infinite dimensional universe with her. Xianxia told his true thoughts. Love at first sight? Why does it sound a bit like lust? Hila has lived for 2,000 or 3,000 years, and she would not easily believe in love at first sight. Mom, I'm not as lustful as my father, Xianxia said a little embarrassedly. But I heard that you were interested in Keisha because you met her when you first came here, and when you helped her recover her body, you happened to see her naked body, and then you had the impulse. Hila is not ignorant of everything. Du Qiangwei obviously found her specifically and told her the whole story. This, Xianxia was even more embarrassed. How could he tell his mother about this kind of thing? Alice, Hila sighed. It's my fault. When you were young, I only wanted you to become stronger and was too strict with you. I didn't consider your mental state at all. That's why you are so naive when facing this kind of thing. Hila felt that it was because she was too strict when she was young that Xianxia couldn't resist the temptation. Comparing Zhaoqing and Xiaolin, Xianxia was so different. Zhaoqing and Xiaolin were childhood sweethearts, and they had been together for more than 10 years, but they were still step by step. Xiaolin, needless to say, was a girl, but she was also very good at love. Only whose son fell in love after just looking at someone else's body. This was a typical example of being too honest. Mom, I didn't, Xianxia wanted to explain, but he didn't know how to explain it to Hila, and he couldn't explain it. Okay, I don't blame you, but you can't rush this matter, Hila said. This time, we need to wait 2 years before we can travel through dimensions again. During these 2 years, the three of you cannot do anything else. Just interact with each other as normal, and then we'll see how things go. Hila made the final decision. No, why 3? Xianxia was a little confused. Chapter 773 The Sedimentation of Time. It was clearly a matter between him and Keisha, but Hila said 3 people, which made Xianxia feel a little confused. But it was not until the next morning, when he saw Yanran regain her spirits and appeared at the door with delicate makeup, that Xianxia finally understood what these 3 people meant. It seems that his mother also thinks that Yanran is a good girl and wants to see if Xianxia can have something with her. Yanran is here, come in. Xianxia was still confused at this time, but Hila in the house also sensed Yanran's arrival, so she hurried out. Seeing his mother personally greet him, Xianxia was embarrassed, but he couldn't say much, so he could only let her in halfway and made a gesture of inviting her in. Yanran looked at Xianxia, actually a little embarrassed, but thinking of what her mother said, and hearing Xianxia's mother so warmly entertaining her, she still went in. As before, she brought her own breakfast, all kinds of types, and even prepared some extra sandwiches. After all, Hila looks like a Westerner, and Yanran thinks she should prefer Western food. When Hila saw the sumptuous breakfast, she was full of praise for Yanran. There is no mother in the world who would not want her daughter-in-law to be able to do housework and cook. Even Hila, who was influenced by Western ideas, had similar ideas. Hila was so happy to eat this breakfast, and she kept praising Yanran. Yanran felt a little embarrassed to be praised like this. However, Xianxia sat aside, but he seemed to be uninterested. It was obvious that Xianxia was resistant to Yanran's arrival. Although he didn't want to show it, he still had such a situation instinctively. After breakfast, Yanran took Hila out to play. Today's Earth is developing very well, and the entire solar system created by super god technology has become very prosperous. Hila didn't care about these scenery at first, but she liked Yanran and was willing to let Yanran travel with her. Xianxia had no choice but to accompany her throughout the whole process. After all, she hadn't seen her mother for more than 10 years. Now that she finally saw her, no matter how much she missed the beauty far away, she had to endure it. In mellow heaven, Keisha was also in a bad mood. She sat in the garden, looking at the roses in full bloom in front of her, but she was thinking about the person who had chatted with her here 2 days ago. Keisha, Hexi came over. Xianji King Hexi returned to mellow heaven, and she also met all her old acquaintances and friends yesterday. And today, it's time for her to have a good chat with Keisha. You came back this time, are you going to persuade me to break up with Xianxia? Keisha looked at Hexi and asked directly. You know, I won't interfere with your thoughts, never at any time, Hexi said. Even though she is no longer Keisha's subordinate, and even now Hexi has surpassed the holy Keisha in strength. But she respects her best friend, respects the king of gods who saved the female angels from the evil rule of Hui Yi. But I see, your guy doesn't seem to be happy with me being with his son. Keisha is a very smart person. When Li Qingyun came over, he was obviously unhappy. Even if he has unparalleled power now, he has only lived for less than 100 years. How could his original pre-nuclear era thoughts be completely eliminated so quickly? Hizai said. He should not be such a stubborn person to make you devoted to him and not ask for anything to be with him. Keisha looked at Hizai. She knew Hizai's personality would never be interested in those guys with rigid thoughts, especially those who have experienced the past male angel era, and they attach great importance to feelings. No one is perfect. Those who have some minor flaws and problems are real human beings. If there are no problems and no faults can be found, then there are real problems. Hizai got this idea from the death god Karl. It can be said that the death god Karl has no flaws in dealing with people, and there is no problem to be found. He is not lustful, has no ideological burden, is not bound by normal things, is not affected by other people's emotions, and has only the knowledge he pursues in his heart. But such a man who looks perfect is actually a complete madman. Without everything that humans should have, what he does is extremely terrifying. You are right. A perfect personality can only exist in stories and novels, and it is impossible to exist in the real world. Keisha no longer has any doubts, and she will not doubt Hexi's vision. In fact, Xianxia also has problems and defects, but she just hasn't discovered them now. People in the passionate love period, especially when both parties are just starting, will never consider these problems. I just received a message from Qingyun. He said that he would not forcefully interfere with Xianxia's feelings, Hexi said. Keisha couldn't help but smile when she heard this. But, he also said that in the next 2 years, you need to keep a certain distance. He hopes that you can have a certain amount of time to settle down and make sure that both of you really like each other, not just impulsive. Hexi added this paragraph. Li Qingyun does things as he pleases, so he naturally has no reason to stop Xianxia from liking someone. But as a father, it is impossible for him to let his son do whatever he wants. Therefore, he set some conditions for Xianxia and let him settle down on his own. This is what Li Qingyun did at this time. Well, I have no objection to this, Keisha nodded. She could accept this situation. When Hexi wanted to be with Li Qingyun, didn't Hexi take a long time to settle down? 2 years later, Xianxia will go to other universes. He can't take you with him when he tests his abilities. It will take him 2 years to go back and forth, Hexi reminded. Although Li Qingyun proposed to settle down in 2 years, in fact, this time should be doubled. My original request to Yan was to let her abstain from sex for 100 years. I have only been abstinent for 4 years now, which is very short for me. Keisha's thinking is to test problems based on 10,000 years. Therefore, a few years or decades are just a blink of an eye in her eyes. In comparison, her emotions are naturally much more stable than Xianxia, who knows all this. Chapter 774, A Brief Separation. These 2 years have passed in the blink of an eye. In the past 2 years, all of Li Qingyun and his group have stayed in the Super God universe. On weekdays, Li Qingyun and Jezailan study various technologies such as anti-void, void and void controller, or occasionally visit various planets in the universe. Their days are quite fulfilling. As for Xianxia, he spends more time with Hila. Under the deliberate arrangement of Hila and Dukayang Wei, Xianxia naturally spends a lot of time with Yanran. However, as long as there is a chance, Xianxia will still go to Keisha, and Hila will not stop him from doing so. After all, to a certain extent, all of them follow the principle of freedom. And today, it is time for Xianxia to go to other dimensional universes again. In order to conduct tests, Xianxia specially took a person from the most heinous prisoners to use as an experiment to see if he can carry a living being through. If the experiment is successful, then the next time he comes back, he can directly take others on an infinite dimensional journey. If he fails, Xianxia will have to make a new choice, whether to be separated from his loved one for 2 years after a 2-year interval, or to live in the same world from now on. Of course, this world can be the Super God universe or the Marvel Cinematic Universe. After all, because of Li Qingyun, the 2 universes have already formed a great connection with each other, and can be repeatedly crossed with living beings. Moreover, in order to ensure the popularity of both sides, Li Qingyun will go back and forth every 2 years and send at least some people to travel. This married woman always has to go back to her parents' home. Once every 2 years is considered a small number, and it is not right to be partial to one over the other. After saying goodbye to everyone one by one, Xianxia opened the dimensional transmission channel. But at this time, Keisha came. She stood aside and waved gently to Xianxia. Xianxia looked at Keisha, but suddenly flew over, hugged her in front of everyone, and then kissed her deeply. After the kiss, he turned around, without waiting for his parents to say anything, and ignoring the expressions of anyone else, he went directly into the dimensional transmission channel. After Xianxia entered, the entire transmission channel was closed, And the next moment, everyone subconsciously turned their heads to look at Kesha. Even with Kesha's concentration, he was a little surprised at this scene. He didn't expect that Xianxia would suddenly do such a thing before leaving. He was caught off guard by the sudden attack. Well, Mellow Shinting has something to do, I'll leave first, Kesha said this, and then instantly opened the speed of light and left here. Everyone was at a loss. A few days later, Li Qingyun also left with some people. It was already decided to travel back and forth between the Super God universe and the Marvel Cinematic Universe every 2 years, so Li Qingyun had to grasp the time and travel every time when these 2 years came. On the other side, Xianxia, who had traveled through the dimensional channel, appeared in a brand new world at this time. He appeared above an ocean. Unlike the previous travels, he did not immediately investigate the situation of this world after traveling through it, but instead entered his own dark matter plane space as soon as possible. The Autobots have been arranged in the Super God universe. The living environment in the world is quite suitable for Autobots, and if they stay there, Jezzailin and others will take good care of them. Now in the dark matter plane space, it is actually a scumbag, who once persecuted female angels during the restoration of Huiyi. Originally, the Mellow Heavenly Court planned to eliminate all male angels, but this guy happened to escape to the vicinity of the solar system. After being caught by Jezzailin, he was first imprisoned. As a result, this imprisonment lasted for more than 30 years, and Jezzailin also forgot his existence. It happened that Xianxia wanted to conduct a test this time. Thinking of his existence, he was asked to be an experimental subject. If it succeeded, he would be deprived of his abilities after returning and then exiled to make him an ordinary person. If the experiment did not succeed, he deserved his death. But obviously, he was lucky. He is still alive, which means that my idea of taking others through the dimensional universe can be realized. Seeing that Xianxia was still alive, Xianxia was extremely excited. His experiment was successful, and it was an unprecedented success. With this foundation, Xianxia can go back to the Super God universe and take Kesha with him to travel to the infinite dimensional universe again and again. Continuing to lock up the scum, Xianxia exited the dark matter plane space. At this moment, he was very excited and was constantly waving his fists to release the excitement in his heart. However, just when he was excited, he suddenly felt that there were powerful energies coming from all directions, and an extremely terrifying aura was coming. Big clock, what's going on? This was the first time that Xianxia felt this kind of energy, and he asked immediately. Someone is approaching this side, the big clock answered quickly. Which world is this? And there are so many powerful people. Xianxia was surprised. Of the worlds that his father had mentioned before, the strongest ones should be the Marvel, Super God and DC universes, but he had been to these 3 universes. If it was really these 3 universes, then he should be able to identify these powerful energies instantly. After scanning, this should be the Dragon Ball world. Dragon Ball world, Xianxia suddenly widened his eyes. This result is a bit too unexpected, isn't it? No, judging from the previous rules, isn't the time we travel through basically related to technology? Xianxia asked in surprise. That's right, all the dimensional universes he traveled through before were related to technology. Transformers, Pacific Rim, DC Universe, these are all biased towards the field of technology. In a sense, the Dragon Ball world also has good achievements in technology, the big clock replied. Isn't this a fighting world? Where does the technology come from? Xianxia was dumbfounded. This Dragon Ball world is obviously not the same style as Marvel and Super God, right? The Android series was created with technology as the direction, the big clock gave an answer. Android, Xianxia was a little dumbfounded. Fortunately, there is relevant data in the big clock. This is the data that existed when Li Qingyun stored all the information about the other dimensions in his mind in one breath. Unexpectedly, he would actually travel here one day. This book is about to be finished. I want to write about Dragon Ball next. I don't know if this setting can be written. If you have read this, please give me some advice. Chapter 775 Dragon Ball Universe. In the Dragon Ball world, Li Qianxia felt a strong sense of crisis for the first time. According to the data recorded by Li Qingyun in the Big Clock, this is the most powerful world in all infinite dimensional universes. One finger shatters the stars, one punch blows up the universe, and the main god is wiped out in the blink of an eye. This world can be said to be the most powerful one among all the other dimensional worlds that have appeared so far. The Sun Wukong in this world is still considered to be the strongest man in the history of comics. Xianxia traveled to this world, and he understood that this time he would no longer appear in a high and mighty and invincible posture. Even in the DC universe, when facing Dr. Manhattan, although he felt that he might not be able to beat him, he had ways to deal with it. But if he really met those really powerful people in this universe, he probably wouldn't even have the chance to open the dimensional channel to escape, and would be wiped out in an instant. It seems that I have to keep a low profile as much as possible. After these 2 years, I can activate the dimensional channel and leave at any time, and then slowly consider whether to explore this world further. Xianxia thought so in his heart, and his aura began to shrink rapidly at this time. To collect as much of his external power as possible, he first had to shut down the dark energy communication methods that naturally existed around him. In addition, there was physical strength. People in other worlds did not have the means to judge the power of others simply by the aura they displayed, but in the Dragon Ball world, those turtle immortals could easily see it. However, although Xianxia did so, the power in him could not be controlled just by saying so. As a technological god, although Xianxia had also integrated the powerful energy of various universes into himself, this integration was still based on technology. In other words, Xianxia could adjust the power he possessed through technological means, but he could not control it freely with his will alone. For example, now Xianxia could easily collect the energy of the big clock, dark communication, etc., but he could not hide the power of this divine body created by integrating many powerful genes. Therefore, even if Xianxia had controlled his power to the lowest level, he could still tell it at a glance in the eyes of those strong people in the Dragon Ball world. At this moment, the people coming from all directions soon arrived at the scene. These people are all recorded in the database of the big clock. Krillin, Gohan, Vegeta. The ages of these people correspond to the plot before the chapter of the artificial humans in Dragon Ball Z. In other words, this should be the period after Son Goku defeated Frieza, but before the artificial humans appeared. The voice of the big clock rang in Xianxia's mind. Son Goku is not among them. Xianxia looked around and did not find the most critical figure in the Dragon Ball world. Son Goku is not here, so there is only one result, that is, he is not on Earth. And there is only one possibility for Son Goku not being on Earth during this period of time, that is, he was stranded on other planets after defeating Frieza, and he was delayed in returning because of training. The big clock further deduced the timeline at this time. Knowing the specific note of the timeline, it is possible to better judge how to act at this time. It is precisely because of this that the big clock can accurately calculate these situations for Xianxia in such a short time. Who are you? A guy covered in green walked out of the crowd. This person is the strongest person on Earth except Vegeta, and the strongest guardian of the Earth, Piccolo. Vegeta's purpose of coming here was just to see who had such a strong aura, while Piccolo and the others were thinking that if an evil person appeared, they had to find a way to stop him before Sun Wukong came back. Everyone, I'm not a bad person. Xianxia stepped forward and nodded slightly to everyone. I'm just a traveler from afar. I came to this planet by chance. I didn't expect to forget to restrain my aura for a while. It's a sin to disturb everyone who came here with so many troops. Xianxia spoke very politely, so that the people present felt a little uncomfortable. Faced with so many enemies over the years, each of those enemies came arrogantly and domineeringly. A gentle person like Xianxia could never associate him with the enemy. However, the pair of big wings behind Xianxia didn't look like a local at all. So, you are from the universe, Vegeta spoke. This Saiyan who once fought everywhere in the universe didn't remember that there was such a race in the universe. Yes, Xianxia nodded. You are lying. I have seen so many races in the universe, but none of them have wings like you. Vegeta directly said the question in his heart. The universe is so huge, are you sure you have been to all the planets with life in the past? Xianxia asked back. And his question also made Vegeta speechless for a while. Indeed, this universe is vast and boundless, and it is not surprising that there are any kind of life. Vegeta is indeed fighting everywhere in the universe, and the intelligence collected by Frieza's army is even more, but even so, it is not necessarily possible to cover the entire universe. Even so, they may not be able to contact half of the entire universe. Are you here on Earth for something? Piccolo asked. He didn't mind Xianxia's identity, he just wanted to know what Xianxia was doing here. I just randomly shuttled and traveled in the universe. This time I came here by chance, and there is no special reason, Xianxia replied. We just felt a very strong energy. Is this energy coming from you? Krillin also asked. From Xianxu's previous answer, they have confirmed that Xianxu is not a bad person. Since he is not a bad person, there is no need to be so vigilant. The others can naturally ask questions. When you travel, you always have to use your full strength, Xianxu said with a smile. You use your full strength every time you travel? Then how long can you travel through the universe at full strength? Vegeta was very skeptical about this. As far as he knew, only Frieza's race could travel through the universe with human power. Moreover, it is impossible for a person to keep full power all the time. If he travels through the universe at full power, he will definitely be exhausted in a short time. This book is about to be finished. I want to write something like this for the next one. I don't know if it will work. If you are still reading it, please give me some advice. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.